Why do you hang around with the worst crowd, the worst crowd? It's gonna hurt me, 'cause you're with the world.
Hey everybody, and welcome to what I believe is episode 33
Double three
of Third Man In, brought to you by Head Check Health. I'm Mike Hickey, joined by
Terry Ryan.
and it's Chuck.
we got a crazy one coming up for you. We got one of Terry's buddies, Ryan Skinny Anderson, coming up. We've already recorded the interview, and oh buddy, what an interview it is.
Yeah. You know, and that was the mild version.
So don't
Yeah.
listen to this at your desk or office, maybe.
I
Maybe
mean-
a headphone.
Or if there's kids around.
Yeah,
If kids
headphones-
around, definitely no go.
I mean, I think we're always a headphone-friendly podcast, more so than we are friendly for work. But I think that, I think this is one you might want to throw some headphones on, just because there might be some, there might be some stuff there that.
Yeah, there's a few categories there that might go over the line. But this is the thing. Before we even get into it, I want people to put this context in their mind. Okay, Skinny Anderson is one of the best people that I came across in hockey. He's very genuine, and he's very open, and he's very honest. So what you're going to hear are things that happen from time to time in pro hockey, in colleges, in pro football, or wherever it's going to be. You know, we talk about sex, drugs, rock and roll a little bit, but Skinny isn't trying to impress anybody. He's being genuine. He was always the life of the party, but not only that, the life of the room. He didn't need to drink every day, although most of these stories, of course, especially with that guy, you know, because they tend to be highlights, and you know, when you're drinking, it tends to be times that create their own stories, right? And we're talking about winning championships and, you know, visiting Austin city limits and everything else. But so it's a lot to take on, but Skinny's just a genuine person. He's a good father. He's a good husband. You won't believe it after listening to the first part of this interview, but I think by the end of it, you will have realized that, you know, this guy's just genuine. He's definitely, I don't overuse the word crazy, and crazy often can have a bad connotation. I mean this in a good way. There's a good crazy, too. It's like when people say newfie. There's a good newfie, there's a bad newfie. There's a good crazy, and that's my buddy Skinny Anderson.
And it's an incredible one with just some insane stories. Like, there's a story that you mentioned before we got started that you were like, I'm gonna get, and it's a story about.
Well, I already put it out on my thing. I said, so I put out on my Instagram earlier. I said we have a guest. I know you're not a lot of you aren't going to know him, but he's got some crazy stories. My favorite is when he missed his own wedding.
And so I took that as just the idea of somebody partying too hard and just like, you know, bachelor party was the night before and just like slept in and missed the wedding. It's not quite that.
It's that times 1,000.
And holy shit, what a story.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great one. So that's coming up for you in just a little bit. In the meantime, let's talk about some other hockey-related things. There's one that I saw kicking around the internet today because people are horrible, and I wanted to run it by TR because I find it a very interesting perspective to have. People are talking about 7 games into the season, or like 2 weeks or whatever it might be. People are
Let's
talking...
talk in James Neal terms. 8 goals into the season. Keep going. Yeah, nice.
He only had 8?
Anyway, keep going. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I love these people who are giving me shit for saying Neal was going to do good, but we're going to save that for Christmas when he's got 20. Go ahead.
Lucic got to pick it up, though, because you said he was going to score 22.
Yeah, but he's valuable. See that
No,
fight
he
got
said
in?
he said
I said he's gonna be
he said
valuable.
Lucic was going to be 10 goals back of whatever Neal lands at.
Oh, okay.
And as of right
But I
now,
said he'd still be valuable, and
Yeah,
he's because both Lucic not as, but Lucic
They're both-
quietly. Those team love seeing him there. He got in that almost fight, then he got in a fight, and he knows he's there. I'm the fucking meat, and I think he's gonna tip in 10 goals. I do.
And honestly, I think I think both teams are happy with what they got out
It's
of
a
that
hockey trade.
It's a great hockey trade.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say is,
I cut you off
we
there.
are 2
So
weeks.
sorry.
That's all right. We're 2 weeks into the season, and as of yet, young Jack Hughes, first overall pick, doesn't have a point.
Really?
And people are already kind of criticizing, people are already chirping a slow start and all this kind of stuff. But it was compared to, so he's 8 goals back on James Neal. But through the first, I saw somewhere today, and I tried to find the source just then, but I couldn't. It was somewhere was talking about through the first 7 games, what Hall, what Stamkos. They compared Owen Nolan, who went 2 points through 14,
Christ.
and then went really big.
Joe
so they're
Thornton.
saying, what's that? Yeah, so Joe
Thornton
Thornton
had like 10 points his whole first year, man.
Yeah, they got
and so
Burns got in a big fight with that. Pat Burns got in a big fight with management.
Fuck. If people start putting pressure on an 18-year-old, I don't care if he plays 82 games and gets 1 goal and 1 assist, I wouldn't even blink. If that happens in 2 years from now, I would be. There's an argument that an 18-year-old's not ready anyway.
Yeah.
Just because he's 18 and got to learn size, maturity, everything. So he's good enough to make it. Great. He went first overall. He kind of should be. But to me, I wouldn't be expecting anything out of a first-round pick right off the bat. I would be hoping that he fits in. His teammates are good, and he's ready for year 2, year 3. Right now, I want you to start fucking. Now you got to put up some numbers. But in the first year, if he gets less than 10 points,
He doesn't. I saw 2 Devils games. He didn't look out of place or lost to me at all. I'm surprised he doesn't have a point.
Yeah, I don't think it's a point. I think he doesn't have a point. But the other thing that I found interesting about it was
You sure
just
it's not
that,
just a goal? And it's
I'll double check for you now. I could be wrong. Let me check. I'm just trying to find the because I didn't have the lead prospects right in front of me, but I do now. And as of right now, 6 games, no points, -4.
That's nothing to worry about.
But
Wait till he gets 8 games and has no points.
But the other thing is, like, what if
that is that game 9 and he burns the year of his ELC.
Yeah,
but the Devils are also shit, right? And they've been shit for a couple years. So like
even better, he's just learning that.
Exactly. So like, what are the expectations for the Devils? Like, why is anybody getting too worked up? I mean, granted, yeah, they are 0-4-2. But
he's a first overall.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's a first overall
forward that shoots left. I would think they're hoping that he learns a lot from Taylor Hall, who's the exact same.
Yeah, and so
Right?
and I think more than anything, it's like if that team was better, they wouldn't have had the first overall pick. So that's it. You got to deal with it.
Good to bring up. I
was also curious
alarmed.
because what I actually had written down was who's got the slower start right now. Is it Jack Hughes or is it the Tampa Bay Lightning? Because the Tampa Bay Lightning are not doing well. They are 5 games in. They're 2-1, and
I know, but
that's like almost as many losses as they had all last season.
I watched one of those. Yeah. I think it's too small of a sample size so far because the game I watched, one of them they lost and they dominated.
Yeah. So it's not it's you're saying it's a deceptively slow looking start.
Yeah, I think,
and I will get those words out of my mouth at some fucking point.
I think the law of averages will work out, and by the 82nd game, you're going to see them be close to first place, and I think you're going to see Hughes with at least 20 points.
And I think with Tampa Bay, the other thing is like they've kind of proven like it doesn't matter if we win the President's Trophy or not.
If I was them, I wouldn't want to.
Let's just get to the playoffs. Yeah.
How long does it take to get over that first round loss? Though Stamkos, like 2 games in, just went off on the media. Like after 2 games, he went bananas after a game.
I think
you got to think it lingers.
And I think it definitely lingers. I mean, I
think that's why he's not playing in Toronto because he'd be snapping like that a lot more.
And I think that's what happened. We were talking about Tavares. I think it was me and you because I know this is also the first time the 3 of us have been sitting around a table in a while. We were talking about Tavares and about how kind of ice cold the guy is, and how.
Special.
And how Stamkos had a similar thing when he went to free agency and he ended up re-signing in Tampa. But everyone was talking about as a hometown boy if he was going to come back and be that Maple Leaf savior. And I don't think I think Stamkos is too hot-blooded for it. And that's exactly it. Like I don't think he'd handle the media pressure the same way that Tavares is just so chill.
Yeah.
Tavares only has one line of emotional response, and that's special.
Yeah.
That's special. I guess Phil Kessel played his 1,000th game over the weekend.
Oh, well, that's nice for
Phil. Yeah, made it to 1,000.
And how many hot dogs were eaten in celebration?
You got to think at least 1.
I got to think there's none left in the city of Glendale.
I think he's crushing hot dogs all day long.
I think he is. I mean, there's the story about Gretzky used to eat 4 before a game. That was his thing, wasn't it?
4 hot dogs?
4 hot dogs and a Diet Coke.
That couldn't have been. What?
That's out of his book, I think.
It's in his book. It's in his book.
It's in his
I knew
autobiography.
It was a hot dog. I didn't know it was 4.
I thought it was like 4 hot dogs
book.
and pound back a couple Cokes or something like that. Like that was his pregame meal.
I remember reading that.
Yeah.
It was at least a hot dog and a Coke. You're right.
Yeah.
And it's a long time ago, but it stood out to me in the book because I was like, "Oh wow!"
I've read a lot of hockey books. I've never read Wayner's. Never read.
It's dated now, but it's
I
good.
remember. I remember getting
Does
it when I was a kid, but like not reading it. Like it was one of those. I think I got it when I was a kid because it was like the Wayne Gretzky book, and I wanted it.
I think there's one in every
when
household.
I wasn't able to read at that level.
You know when I got it?
When?
He fucking signed it and passed it to me himself. We had the same agent. Unbelievable. Like I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I met him a few times. I told you about the game I fought Todd Harvey.
Yeah.
But my draft was in Edmonton,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was come home year. Well, obviously, so the draft is there. So like Coffey, Anderson, Teakin, and they all went. So they were partying on the side. And earlier, I don't know, my agent, for some reason, myself and Lanco and Sheldon Surrey, and Brian Boucher all played on Tri-City, and we all had that agent. So he kept a close. So we went to the draft. Surrey's from Edmonton. And me, Bush, and Lanks were getting drafted. We all stayed in adjoining rooms. Two in each room, and then we went upstairs, and Gretz fucking had books for us and signed them to us.
That's wicked.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I was just gonna. This popped up to me just now because we haven't actually ever talked about this. I mean, we talked about Mike Barnett being your agent, and how you've had Gretzky's agent and all these kinds of things, and we've talked about this before. But one thing I've kind of been curious about is when did you get that agent? Like, what stage of playing in Tri-City did you sign on with Mike Barnett?
You won't believe it. I left here. Yeah, Tri-City's not even involved. I was the youngest player he ever had. Yeah, I was, at the time, I was 14. I showed up to play in Quesnel. After my first game of junior, he phoned and said, "Who's this fucking guy from Newfoundland?"
The hot sauce game?
No, it would have been, I guess, I don't know exacts. The hot sauce game happened. There was a game, the first game I played, I got beat up.
Okay.
And then the hot sauce game happened like 2 weeks later.
Oh, okay.
The next time we played Williams Lake.
Yeah.
Maybe even a week. But that was exhibition.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was that. Like, I probably played 5 or 6 exhibition. The season started in October. I played a game. So the funny thing is, Tri-City sent me there because they said they were going to quote unquote hide me.
Okay.
Right? For the draft. But when I went out, because you had to move to BC or Western Canada, Manitoba over, to be drafted in the Western League. So I went out. And again, they're like, we're going to hide you. At this point, no one knows who I am other than people that had been at the Quebec PB tournament. Because I was rated number 1 there. I'm not saying I wasn't hyped, but not out there. So that's why they said go up. So I went up to Quesnel, and when all that happened, so to be honest, that hot sauce thing happened, but word started to get around.
Yeah.
Hot sauce or not, I'm fighting guys.
I was just curious if it was the same game.
Even if I get shit-faced. But I fight, and then I score, right? So then, I lost my virginity after. It is a funny story.
Yeah.
But then I decided to stay. So after game 1 that I played for the Quesnel Millionaires, people were like, what? There can't be really someone that's first year band, 14 years old, that I didn't throw a hit. And then that's when he must have heard, because like within days, and I remember Dad talking about it, but to be honest, I didn't know who Mike Barnett was. I didn't follow the agency side. I didn't follow the business side.
You weren't Chuck.
No, I remember
I didn't follow any agents.
But I mean, what's also, I mean,
he showed up anyway at my door. Sorry, because the story's almost over.
Yeah, no.
He showed up at my door after Dad had been talking to him. I tell the story like he showed up at my door. Dad probably knew he was coming. I didn't realize, nor did I care who Mike Barnett was. I did not know he was Wayne Gretzky's agent, though.
Yeah.
And then I remember him saying to me, he goes, "You're the youngest guy." He said, "You and the guy I signed a few months ago who's just barely older than you," and it was Radek Bank. So it was.
And you broke his ass.
Radek?
No,
Bank,
sorry,
Sheldon did down in but see, now you know that's why we were all down there together, because he had Podolin. He was one of our guests.
Yeah.
Surrey. So the reason, remember I talked about Brainerd and going there, because it was all IMG guys that went to Brainerd. It wasn't just prospects.
Yeah.
It wasn't even most prospects. It was only IMG prospects.
Right.
So that's why I got to know all those guys, because we were in the same agency. Mike might call and go, 2 days before we go to Brainerd, we're all going to go on a boat trip in Fargo. Like something like that. And Sean Donovan used to play for the... I remember him being there, and Richard Park and Mark Savard was there every year I was, every week that I was. Worked hard. Mark Savard worked hard. But anyway, that's how that all went down. And I got the agent, I think, just through being on the news in BC.
And so I was curious about that. I was curious at what stage, like, was it, because I mean, you see stuff where, the agents go around in movies, it's like they go around to all like high school kids or college kids or whatever when they know they're getting ready to go.
Yeah.
So I was curious at what stage did that happen? Because the other thing is, like, it's one thing to just say he's Gretzky's agent, and then that's a big deal because Wayne Gretzky is the biggest deal in hockey. But also, if you do follow the agency side through the 80s and early 90s, Mike Barnett was the Wayne Gretzky of agents.
I know.
And that, like, the way he completely
You're right. That's a good point.
overhauled what agents were able to do and what and
You're
the
right.
way they worked and the way they marketed their players. Like, he completely
I don't get into that
changed
much,
the
but
game.
you're
the way
exactly
that goes,
right. And I'll go one further. You're exactly right. The movie Jerry Maguire is based on IMG. If you look at Tom Cruise's office, when you look at there's a big picture of Gretzky. I'd been to IMG. It's in L.A.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's all over, but
It's international management group,
when I was
right?
there, like they
Isn't
also represented Pete Sampras. They had represented Shaq. Like it wasn't just hockey at all. Like I remember going to IMG and like just a lot of pull, a lot of celebrities coming in. There's a volleyball player, real famous female volleyball player in the early 2000s. She just kind of walked in. And I remember one of the boys walking by and going, "Hey, you want to go to the Oakley factory?" Which wasn't far, somewhere around San Diego, in between San Diego and L.A. And we just drove out there, and they gave me, like, honestly, I'm not kidding, like $5,000-$6,000 worth of Oakleys, just like right off the rack. I brought them. Dad still wears some of them. I swear, it's 20 years ago.
That's crazy.
But it was a wild time, and that's it. So we would go out there and train a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd usually leave. I'd take my parents from there, and we'd go on a cruise off of L.A. Then I'd stay at Hermosa Beach, where Teddy Purcell lives now. Hermosa Beach, right? That's where Rob Blake was in on a bar called Harry O's. Anybody my age, anybody from the fucking minors to the NHL will know what I'm talking about. People would go Manhattan Beach / Hermosa Beach. Can't remember where Harry O's was in one of those spots. And then all the other hockey guys would go out and train. I mean, it is L.A. And Mike had a great setup. And you know who was his partner at the time? Mike had two partners, Mel Bridgman and Tom Laidlaw. And Tom Laidlaw just went on Survivor. And
Really?
the new I heard him interviewed on Chicklets maybe 2 interviews ago or 3. So it's like and he was talking about doing Survivor, and he said I can't give away a spoiler, so I guess I don't know when he got knocked out, and I think it's this one. I think it's the current one.
He is on Survivor Island of the Idols, the 39th season, which is insane to me. And he's the first Canadian-born person to ever be on Survivor.
First Canadian, yeah.
And I'm just trying to Island of the Idols. I think they're 3 episodes in, is what this is saying. I don't know.
This all seems like a fever dream.
Yeah.
To me.
It's
Like, how
unbelievable
the
that no
hell
one
did
knew.
we get from
what I see,
Jerry Maguire,
Yeah.
Survivor, the Oakley factory?
He's still on, from what I can see. Yeah,
But Laidlaw was like the reason I even sometimes I connect the dots in my head and I don't do it. Laidlaw was like down there at the time, and he'd played for the Kings, he'd played for the Rangers and a few other teams, and I just remember him being real involved. He was probably late 30s, early 40s. I think he's 60 or 61 now. And Tom just always said, like, he was always going. Some agents, Mike was a good agent. If I had a question, he'd answer it. But Tom was almost like I remember him being real fit. Like, if we went to the beach, even started walking, he'd like do push-ups. He'd run around. No, let's attack the day, Terry. You know, he'd love to, if we went for a beer, like he'd make sure to have a nice view of the water and the women or whatever it was. Tom lived life to the fullest. It seemed like I really liked being around him.
Okay.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, basically, what I'm saying is that he had a nice big personality. And it's no surprise to me that he ended up on Survivor. I'm really surprised that no one knows, because you guys are like maybe the 10th people that I've mentioned that to, including my dad, and nothing usually gets by him, and no one's had any idea. So I guess he's just not a lot of people don't realize.
I don't think I've watched Survivor since they voted Colleen off the island, man.
I don't think I ever watched it.
Yeah, you've got to go back to like my 4th grade when I
that was a first season joke.
Oh, was it? Okay, yeah.
Okay, I watched Richard Hatch. Is that the first
Yeah,
season?
it's first season. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah.
that's when I know of Survivor.
Yeah.
But I
That's-
would just figured someone would have. I figure you would have hear
You'd think,
to
yeah.
the media that he's on there. I mean, it's a big deal for Canada.
Yeah,
It might
the
have
first
nothing to do with
Canadian,
hockey.
you figure, the
First
first
Canadian
Canadian
ever.
Yeah.
How did it take us 39 goes?
I don't know.
There's
How have they gotten to 39?
39 loads of people to an island, and then finally they're like, let's mix it a Canadian.
And if he's the first Canadian, I just would have thought, okay, if there's no Canadian, if you'd asked me this last year and 38 years have gone by, I'd just think, well, there's Canadians are not allowed in. But you're telling me the whole time they were, and they waited that long.
I know, because I think
39 years. That's like 500 contestants.
He's the guy we're sending to. No disrespect, but like it's
I know.
Steve Nash. Or
I know.
something.
I think it's a case where like Survivor is an American show. It has American contestants. He's the first Canadian-born. It's probably a dual citizenship thing, and he's
There's
just
lots
like
of them.
so it's probably but it might
Right,
just
the
be
guy
like
we just talked to, Skinny's a dual citizenship.
so it's just like kind of a weird. It is super weird. Not only is it weird that they have 39 seasons of Survivor.
What are they running, like 3 a year or something?
Be
Two?
two.
Yeah,
I mean that
40,
show came
20
out
years
like
ago, yeah.
like that's kind of where it's at. That's kind
2
of
a year. That's bold.
That's nuts.
Like, even
is
if
what
you
that
had
is.
one a year, like they just said, you know what,
But
one's not good enough.
But it's not even that, because if you think about it, that first couple years there was one a year. Like, it wasn't like Survivor started and Survivor ended and there was overlapping
yeah.
Survivors for the first, like, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6
For sure.
seasons. And now, all of a sudden, there's a point where there has to be,
That
like, 4
was it.
concurrent, like, seasons of Survivor on.
Remember, that's a long time ago now. I often think it's like fairly recently with the reality show. That's been 20 years now. But remember Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and like Survivor and then American Idol, like
All dropped
within,
within, like, the
Yeah.
same...
3 years,
and then
2 years.
TV was changed forever.
Yeah.
And I always hear these, and it's great when I hear like Seinfeld and Sopranos. I know they did, but a lot of people, because it might not be their cup of tea, and it's certainly not mine. I don't dislike reality TV. I don't like it. Why watch someone just, why? I get too much to do. I watch Joe, who owns a burger shop in fucking Knoxville, Tennessee. Why do I want to watch him eat a fucking burger on an island? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But, or I guess they're not even having burgers. But point being, I remember that. And you don't hear it much, but to me, that's the biggest change in TV since I've been alive. Sopranos, you'd have to know context, and you'd have to watch the whole show and go, oh, I see. Well, they're doing this first. Or in Seinfeld, oh, it's about nothing. Brilliant. You'd catch it all after like 8 or 10 or episodes or 2 seasons. But that was overnight. Like, to me, that changed the culture of TV completely
yeah.
more than anything. Overnight. There was no reality. Now we got American Idol and every other spinoff that are still around. Mm-hmm. And then we got Survivor and every other spinoff that are still around.
It goes back to Real World, though. MTV's Real World is probably the first one of all those.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There was the
and then Real World,
Lofters.
Big Brother.
There was
No,
the
no,
Lofters,
no.
which was the Canadian version with Jen Hedger from TSN.
No,
Yep.
go away.
I agree that those were 1st. But
But they didn't change it.
It was
They
they,
didn't
weren't,
change
they
it.
weren't huge, though. They
No,
weren't.
they didn't change things the way
like my parents
Survivor.
wouldn't have known anything
Yeah,
about that.
Survivor came along. A major network got a hold of it as opposed
yeah.
to
No,
MTV.
but what happened was, like, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was the first game show of that high stakes, where it was like $1 million. It was like a big deal when Who Wants to Be a Millionaire came on. And then within probably a year or so after that, Survivor came out, which was this like reality-based, just people in this competition thing, and that was a bit because it followed them not just during the game, but during their lives in between all the games and how they were holding up to all that, which is what really changed everything. And then I found out I am in fact wrong. Other than Survivor Borneo, which was the very first one that was retroactively called Survivor Borneo, that came out on May 31st, 2000. Since then, there have been 2 seasons of Survivor every year. The next season came out in January. It premiered after the Super Bowl. Then there was one in October of that year. And then since 2002, every February and September ever since.
Buddy, that's a power move, man. Premiering after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
How about this?
How about we get off this island?
Oh, nice segue.
But yeah, those were mainstream. The other
Yeah.
stuff, I only knew MTV stuff because I was playing junior in the States and I'd have
Yeah.
my days off. But like, no, that's a great point. Looking back, it would definitely be the precursor. But my parents would have no idea what that was.
No.
Now, that being said, you know when I thought that all jumped the shark and it didn't? And I thought it for sure would have? And oddly enough led to The Bachelor. What show do you think? Because there was one about 2 years into all that nonsense.
Big Brother?
No, it was the most... It was just wording. The wording then, and people were like, oh my God, I can't believe Darva Conger was her name. Oh my God, Darva Conger. Wow, what a sellout. I can't believe it was called Who Wants to Marry a Multi-Millionaire? And they had...
I remember
and the guy's
this.
name was... I can't remember the guy's name, but he had like 5 companies, like $100 million. And these contestants went on, and they were all... It was like The Bachelor, except they didn't... And the Bachelor came out just a few years later, and The Bachelorette, by the way, my buddy Matt Higgins is married to one of the Bachelorettes. He used to play on the Montreal Canadiens.
Rick Rockwell.
Rick Rockwell. Who Wants to Marry a Millionaire? And everybody went up in arms. And basically, it's the same as The Bachelor.
It's The Bachelor. It
I've
is
never
exactly
heard
The
of that
Bachelor.
one.
Yeah, it came out and everybody was wild. I remember everybody
what
lying
was-
around the TV and
but
who
what
would
was
ever...
different about it was that with The Bachelor, like the whole thing was that it was like, so I'm looking at this now, and yeah, it came out around the same time. It was hosted by Jay Thomas, who used to be on Cheers. He was Carla's husband and passed away a few years ago. But yeah, Darva Conger won. But Rick Rockwell, like the thing about it was that Rick Rockwell was like this sort of, he was a bit of an older guy than what you have. He was a bit kind of friggin' weird.
Yeah.
That was kind of the whole thing, was that after him, they tried to go much more just like, it wasn't multimillionaire the same way. Like this was very much, it very
It's
much
in your
felt like
face.
this like guy in his like
Who
late
wants to be a
40s.
whore?
Yeah, it
right.
was.
That's what they were saying.
It was just it was very much more of a creepy dynamic.
Yeah.
Because there was
they
a big.
just changed a few little things,
I'm
but
just-
it was so
No,
creepy.
there was-
I'm
there was a
picturing this guy as
huge-
Count Chocolate without the fucking cape.
You're
by the way.
not,
remember
you are
when it
not
came
far
on.
off, man. You are
Yeah.
not far off. It was
But boys, when it came on, everybody was going like, I can't believe that they're going to do this now, reality TV with marriage. They're going to do this with marriage. Like it ended up being this huge, only overnight. Then people forgot about it 2 weeks later. But now
That's-
uh,
I'm like, The Bachelor is so popular. All they did was change the wording and make the guy better looking and younger.
Yeah.
That's all they did.
Yeah, no,
Outrage
it's-
and forgot about it overnight. My kind of world.
Yeah.
baby.
no, it very much is. But like this,
But I
you
thought it
can't-
all jumped the shark then, and it didn't. All that did was pave the way for another show.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden, at some point along there, we got the Kardashians and shit, and,
And
that's
yeah,
what I
and
can't
it's just-
stand. Then we started making stars out of socialites who
And
have a fucking don't have a fucking clue. She's a fashionista. Yeah, because someone don't get me going.
it's
Someone
just,
gives her the opportunity. Here, put your name on this.
But yeah, I forgot about Who Wants to Marry a Millionaire, multimillionaire, and it was multimillionaire
Yeah, I
too,
know.
right? Like
Just
it's just like
2.1 million.
what?
Who wants to marry a millionaire? You know, John, that's not good enough.
But like
We have to come up with
We need to find
something
him.
better.
Oh
guy.
my
Both sides.
lord! The look of this man.
Oh,
yeah, and like you gotta like Google image search this guy
Holy
and just
fuck.
oh buddy,
Where is he now?
I don't know.
No.
You know what's really funny is
Who
that
wants to marry an 80-year-old millionaire?
Who wants to know where he is now? I say, raising my hand.
yeah, it was like this whole thing where yeah, like apparently he kissed her on stage and it was like a whole bunch of things. He did a comedy tour after called the Annulment Tour. That was the thing. He was like
Oh,
a stand-up or something
terrible.
too, right?
It
Like,
all stinks.
oh man, everything about it was
stinks.
just.
all of it.
And wasn't it something too where I feel like
I'm gonna start waving a towel here, boy.
I know, but I
Throw
feel
in
like
the towel.
it was a 2-hour broadcast. It was done as a thing, and it was made up where like they didn't know who he was. It was a beauty pageant like competition in which 51 from each one woman from each state competed to be the bride of an unknown multimillionaire who did not see except for in silhouette.
You could see his silhouette, and he'd have clues. Like they'd say, "Where'd you go to school?" And I have my master's
yeah,
in sports therapy.
It would be funny
from
where he was a
University of
stand-up.
Connecticut.
It'd be funny if it was like Bobcat
Goldthwait.
Goldthwait, yeah. If it was a silhouette, and all of a sudden that voice that everyone knows.
yeah. It's just oh, buddy, I forgot about what a train wreck that was. Oh man, and like they got like instantly annulled, and it was just like yeah, no, that was crazy.
I have a quick
Speaking of crazy, no, that's
quick
good.
hockey question. Actually,
Yeah.
no. It's your turn, Chuck.
I'm anything that gets us off this ramp is what I was going for, really. I was going to make a joke about Pepsi gives away $1 billion, and that's as crazy as I thought, but I didn't know about all this. TR, you have the floor.
I've often thought to myself, at what point did someone realize to smoke, like to put something in a pipe and to light it and then pull it into your lungs and go, like eating is natural, drinking, I can see how you come out. Those are instincts that we have, just like, I guess, birds flying south. It's an instinct that's in us. But, so, I'd really like to know, and I've Googled this a lot, and at the beginning of beer is easier kind of to come across, and people kind of, the way that they came across beer and what we know now as beer has been about 10,000 years.
Yeah.
About since we've been civilized, basically. But if you want to say that.
For good reason.
10,000. The agricultural revolution. Since then, let's say. So, and I don't really understand how that, I guess someone accidentally over the millions of, or days, thousands of days, tens of hundreds of thousands of days, someone came across, yeah, maybe I'll light this and I'll smoke it. How did we know that putting stuff in the ground inside a metal machine will make it go, like a car? Like, how did we know that gas, oh, I see. Like, is there something else we don't know? Like, could beach sand rocket a ship? Like, could that chalkboard, you know what I mean? Like, how did someone look at gas in the ground, oil and all, and just go, you know what, we can take that you know what? Let's fucking invent something that if we put it in it, it'll fucking propel it.
One of my friends has a great, he's a stand-up comic in St. John's, Stephen Payat, has a great joke, which is essentially horses make glue. So somewhere somebody was trying to make glue, it wasn't working, and said, fuck it, bring in a horse.
That's a Seinfeld gig.
Is it I've seen
is.
Steve Payat always do it.
Well, either Steve stole it or Jerry stole it. Doesn't Seinfeld say,
I don't know.
Who looks at a horse and says glue? Someone does that.
I've always seen Steve Payat do it.
Well, you might want to talk to your buddy
I'm
Steve.
going to give Steve the credit.
I'm not calling Steve a hack. I'm not doing it. I'm not calling anybody a hack. I'm just saying. And parallel thought happens, but my answer to you would be I would imagine smoke happened because someone was burning some shit and tobacco leaves got in there and they went, that actually kind of tastes kind of nice and I like it. I want to do it again. And I would imagine that.
I hope it started like that. That's the most logical. And that's the only thing I could think
And
of.
I would imagine that people saw what kind of energy was happened when gasoline accidentally caught fire and they went, let's harness that energy. And eventually it turned into
answer,
the,
Mike. That's the kind of thing I was looking for.
Yeah, it's that. I think both are hopefully that simple.
How did we get there?
I don't. You wanted to change the subject.
I brought it up. Yeah. You wanted to change the subject.
So we changed the subject.
And I was curious. Anything else hockey-wise you guys want to battle this week?
I do, but how about we go to our interview and then we come back and then we talk about something. All right. So we'll take a quick word from our sponsor and we'll be right back after this.
Concussions are serious. Whether you're a concerned parent, a coach, a risk manager, an executive, even a player, they're a major area of concern. HeadCheck Health has developed software and services that improve the way concussions are assessed, tracked, and managed at all levels of sport. Their goal is to create a safer environment of play by giving better tools to the people responsible for documenting and assessing concussions, as well as providing better data to administrators to make real health and safety improvements. HeadCheck currently works with the Canadian Junior Hockey League, BC Hockey, Rugby Ontario, the Western Lacrosse Association, and more to advance concussion management practices. If you're interested in learning more how HeadCheck can help your team or organization, please visit headcheckhealth.com or email info@headcheckhealth.com. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce my friend and former Neepawa native, Austin Ice Bat, and Orlando Seal. He is a killer of a Canadian, an amazing American, a pretty potent pugilist, the king of sting. He went commando in Orlando, a hell of a cat and former ice bat. A legend, they say, of Canadian Junior A. He can jump, he can jive. He's born in 1975. Likely the craziest dude I ever played with, and I mean that in a very complimentary, loving way. My friend, Ryan Anderson. Skinny, how the fuck are you?
I am doing so well, TR. That's one hell of an introduction, my friend.
Well, did you expect any less?
No, I did not.
Now listen,
Absolutely not.
To give people, I'm going to give them a quick introduction. We're going to go back right to Neepawa first, right? Well, to Bozeman first. But
God's country.
Just to give an idea, so, to sum it up briefly, the quick bio. Skinny and I played together. I was Skinny played in Austin out of junior. He went to Austin for 6 or 7 years, and he played in Orlando. If you'll notice, he wasn't really a suitcase. Wherever we went, people loved him. Usually, I'm reading off these things that go 30 teams. There's only 3 teams, 2 pro teams, and played 8 or 9 years. So Skinny though is a total role player. He could play forward. He could play D. Wouldn't be in the first pairing or first line on either. In fact, I've heard, you told me this yourself, that when you first went to Austin, you had no business playing pro hockey. That being said, Ryan would do anything for the team. Always funny on the bus in every way. Was decent enough, improved over time. When we were in Orlando, I mean, I was only there for the last part of the 2003, 2004, or 2002-03 season. I'd had a bad ankle. I was tripping over my bottom lip, but I shot it with cortisone, went down with my buddy Zach Boyer, and we won a championship, and Skinny was on that team. So Skinny, before we go back to you growing up, and how you became the role player that you were, I want to take you down. We've never talked about this. Now, Skinny and I were like real good friends on that team. I don't think I had a closer friend. We were together almost every day. Skinny, where did we live? We were like a half hour outside of Orlando. Weren't we in Kissimmee or some shit?
Kissimmee. Yeah.
Which-
We were in Orlando. You came halfway through, and everyone that was halfway through got put in Kissimmee right next to Disney there.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, that was it. Because, you didn't live in my complex. But, I mean, we were right next to Disney. Guys, it couldn't have been any better. And we had free SeaWorld, Universal Studios, or Disney any day.
Picturing you in the Mickey Mouse ears with like tiara on
Well,
the
we would
on
go
the
in there and
ear.
use it as a bar.
That's
Because you could drink in there. Right? So like
Yeah.
that was like where we going tonight. And remember that place, Skinny, we used to go before I go on? Remember that place? It was like, it had all kinds of like plants. It was like a jungle kind of place. We used to go.
Bamboozler. The
The
Bamboozler.
fucking Bamboozler. Was it really? Oh my God, I got to
Yes,
write that
it was.
down. I got it when the next time I go back, I got to see if that place is still there.
Sounds like Jungle Jim's owes
It's a-
someone
it's
some
a little-
money.
Yeah, it was a little tiki hut. We could have went anywhere. Downtown Orlando, in Disney, or Universal. What did we do? We stuck in a little tiki hut. It looked like it was just on Skid Row, and we spent most of the time there at the Bamboozler. They sold it was like a rum punch drink. Came in a fishbowl, cost about $15. It had Everclear in it. Good times right there, fellas.
Yeah.
Oh
we
man,
would get
as somebody
all
who
fucked
has
up.
a tiki bar in my own backyard, I am fully on board for
You would have
this,
loved
and
this.
can't wait to
It was
go
like-
check out the Bamboozler.
It was like your backyard on acid. There was pictures from all the way.
That's
You didn't
deadly.
even the locals didn't know where it was. I'm like,
Yeah.
we're in Orlando. Like we played in the same rink that the Orlando Magic played in at the time. It was the TD Waterhouse. I don't know what it's called now, but it was fucking unbelievable to play minor. Not only that, we were in the Atlantic Coast League. Like people down there, not a lot knew about it. They didn't know the levels of hockey.
Yeah.
So like Tampa Bay was like down the road. Our buddy, what was the guy on our team? Bruce Ramsey's son, Jarrett.
Yeah, Jared Ramsey.
So,
Yeah.
and his dad was the assistant coach of Tampa. Like, so it was only we'd go down and watch games.
Yeah.
And all these fans, like, they're looking. All they know is it's the minors. They don't
Yeah,
realize the Atlantic Coast League is like 8 rungs away from the fucking NHL. They
And
have no
again,
idea.
they're like what we were talking about last week, right? Where they don't understand that hockey isn't the same as baseball in terms of what the minor league system is, right?
You're right.
No
Yeah.
different than right here. No different than right here. Whenever we played in Austin, everyone always asked, "Hey," so chicks would come up, "Hey, when you guys gonna go play the Stars?" I was like, "Next week, baby. Come next week."
Yeah, I know. You would never correct them. You loved that shit too at the time. Now, before we get right into this, Skinny, because I don't even know half your stories, and I know they're great. But for years, we didn't really talk, because Skinny's not a social media guy. At least you weren't for a while. I know you've been on and off, but, and we were kind of disconnected. I come back to Newfoundland. You went from Orlando to Austin. And like I said, we hung out all the time. So I'm going to ask you your take on the final night. I can remember almost exactly what happened that night. So when I say the final night, guys, we won. I went there, I think, the beginning of January maybe, and to Orlando. It was the Orlando Seals. It was the Atlantic Coast Hockey League. Now it's the Orlando
Solar Bears
again, and it was before. At the time, there was the Atlantic Coast League, there was the West Coast League, there was the East Coast League, and now they all kind of went together. And each league only had 9 or 10 teams in it, right? And now, there was the Central, the Western Professional, but as a rule, what I'm saying is that all these leagues now the Coast has 30 plus teams in it, and they're all affiliated. It wasn't really the case. So all the teams that we're talking about now are most of them are in the East Coast League. So it was just a different kind of division kind of thing. But anyway, so we were down there, and we sliced through. And I only went down because Zach Boyer, my buddy, who scored the winning goal in Junior A, in Major Junior for Kamloops in '91, he'd got hurt. And there was so many spots for like a veteran that are open and a rookie and all that stuff. So he said, there's a spot for a veteran open. And I knew I was done. I had a bad ankle, but he said, quit fucking sooking and come down, shoot it with cortisone, and you can win something. So, to win, we never lost a fucking game. I went down there with like 13 games left. Now, think about it. In that league, there was nice places. Jacksonville, help me out, Skinny. Winston-Salem, Macon. Wasn't it?
Knoxville. Yeah, there was. Then there's the Knoxville team. Jay Vegas, Miami.
Jay Vegas. When Ron Duguay came out. Ron Duguay came out, guys, with no bucket, and he was allowed to because... Remember they grandfathered in, like we would watch the NHL and see like Brad Marsh playing like Craig McTavish, and we'd go like, why do they have no helmet on in the 90s? Well, because it was grandfathered in. They started without one. Well, this was in the mid fucking 2000s, and Ron Duguay
was still playing?
he was like 48, 49
Player
years
coach.
old. Player coach.
Player
beauty.
Not only
Beauty.
that,
There's
and their goalie
nothing
comes
better.
out, it's Red Light Rasico, and he was married, I think at the time, was it Carol Alt?
Yeah, Carol Alt. I think he's still married to her because
think
she's wagging her around. Yeah.
She was at the games. I was like, what the fuck is
What the
going on?
hell?
I thought you were going to say, I think he's still playing down there. And I was going to be like, I got to get up and go on YouTube. Like, I gotta go
It was
look this up.
at the time, like, I thought he'd been retired for like 13 years. Like, he was old, like, he was pushing 50 when he came out. But anyway, there was lots
Still studio, and still Studio 54. He'd show up at the games, chest hair, chains out, hair.
Oh, yeah,
his hair,
third-
he looked like the
third
same.
button
He's
undone.
weathered pretty well.
That really did. He did do that. It was unbelievable. And even at the time, we say Ron Duguay now, and he was no less of a legend then. He'd been out of the game for a while. But little things like that were really a novelty in that league, and I loved it.
He
and we
played
lived
till 2008, 2009, by the way.
unbelievable.
Fuck.
Where do? Oh my god,
That's insanity, but yeah.
that's incredible. So anyway, Skinny. So we go in, guys, and we knife through butter. First round, we win 3 straight. Then we win because I believe we had a bye in the first round. That's what happened because we finished like with 100 points more than anybody else. Well, in that league, everybody wanted to go to Orlando. Why not? We had lots of ex-pro guys. We had the guys like Skinny that even though they were minors, they were 7 or 8 year vets, and there wasn't as many rules that you could have to have so many rookies and stuff. So it was like the land of the outlaws. So anyway, we end up buying the first round. 3 or 4 straight in the second round. I think it was three games in the second round. Third round, we're playing Knoxville. We beat them 4 straight. Fourth game is in Knoxville. Now, Skinny, we won the game like 6-2, I believe. Do you
Yeah, we blew 'em
remember
out.
the events? I'll let you talk about some of that evening, and then I'll tell you what I remember about some of that evening. Anyway, right after the game. So the game ends.
Yeah, game ends. Soon as we walk, before we get to the dressing room, there's just these crates. They look like the old, in the old arena or the old pissers where they have the ice in them. They had that, and they were just lined up with champagne, beer, everything. So right away, before we even get into the locker room, we start hammering the alcohol, spraying it, pictures, all that stuff. Within 30 minutes, the trophy that we won, that everyone was posing with, and it was such a nice prize, it was absolutely obliterated.
It was
I think
not.
people were pissing in it, and I remember
was-
pissing in it and taking a drink out of it.
In that order?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not sure really the order, but like I said, and then it just got worse and worse. I ended up on the ice naked, skating, doing
Now,
hot
guys,
laps.
now when I
remember-
say that, now calm down for a second. You came in the room. You know what it took to get you to do that? I looked at you and I said, Skinny, you won't go out. You won't go out on the ice naked. That's all I said. Skinny, you won't go out on the ice naked. And he said, like, fuck, I won't. And he took off everything, guys, put on his skates, loaded now at this point, too, and went out onto the goddamn ice. It was like Slapshot. If honestly, if you've ever seen the movie Slapshot and at the end you think that's far-fetched, that's exactly what happened. And I have it on video somewhere. I have it on VHS.
Slapshot or that instance?
Both. And Skinny then comes out and remember you took the net and you threw the net off the moorings and you're just skating around. And I'm going at some point tonight, like, because we're in their burn. We're not in Orlando. And people are filtering
You're
out,
on
but
the
there were
road.
still people there.
Oh, there were still kids. There were still kids because someone that took some pictures, and I have pictures of me buck ass naked. There's like pictures of like kids in the stands.
Yeah, there
So
is.
not the best timing.
And-
But,
and-
hey,
and-
we win a championship.
And we're saying full on naked, like no
Well,
cup.
Cup for a bit and then he took it off. Yeah.
Jesus.
Okay, first when he went out, it was a jock strap without the cup in it, and then that went flying too.
Because I mean, even
Then he put a
Ned
cape
wore his
on.
cups
No, then
like
he
his
put a cape
jock
on.
Jesus
So
Christ.
I got pictures of this somewhere. So follow for those listeners. This is going to drop tomorrow. This tomorrow being Tuesday after work tomorrow. I'll search and I know I got them somewhere and I'll post them. But anyway, Skinny. So that was that event. Now, where I keep a diary and I had the book come out a few years ago. How'd you like your mention too? I mentioned you in the book.
I
don't know
did.
if you
Like
read it.
always, like a shout out. You know what I mean?
So
Always.
you can read. Good stuff.
I had
so-
someone read it to me. The strippers are great readers. You know what I mean? In the
I bet.
afternoon, have a little lunch, little steak,
Yeah.
Salisbury steak.
I wish you were
reading to
kidding.
Yeah.
So this happens after though. Now I'm going to tell you my take because it was a chaotic evening. Some of this will definitely overlap with your night. So we went back. We were going to go out, but it was like, remember, it was a weird night. First of all, the game ends. We're getting shit-faced anyway. The game started at 7 at the earliest. So I'm thinking we didn't leave the hotel till 11 or the rink till 11 or 12. But I'm not sure on that, but I know we drank in there forever, right? Like what it seemed. Exactly what you would think a pro team doing. So I left Skinny. I don't know if you were there for this, But I go across the street because I'm like, it must have been a Monday or Tuesday, or there was some reason there wasn't anybody anywhere. So I walked across the street, and I was with, I think, Darcy Johnson, God rest his soul. He passed away a couple of years ago. He was our good buddy. I think I was with Darcy, but Feds might have been there, Fedorenko. There was this bar, and it was an old bar. When I walked in, on the wall, excuse my language, people, but I don't like using this word, but I'm going to, well, what do you mean? Mike's saying no. Now I got to.
I know, but
so it said on the wall. Well, it's the context I'm saying it.
I know, but
Now I want to. So it said on the wall, niggers not allowed here. Now on that wall, so I look at it, and then the word is like crossed out. So clearly that sign was from like 80 years ago, right? So I'm looking at it, and it's crossed out, and it says certain people above it. So certain people, and I guess we are in Knoxville. I know that doesn't speak for everybody in Knoxville,
yeah,
but we're down south, so I guess those kind of places exist. And I'm like, oh fuck, like I'm definitely not going in here. So we turned around and we went back, and that was a total eye opener. So then I was kind of tasked with trying to find a place for us all to go, and that was the only bar that was close. So I went back over, and Stan's there. I go, Stan, we can't go into that place, like obviously, right? So Stan Julier is our coach. So Stan says, fuck it, we'll go back to the hotel. Now remember this, Skinny, because I don't remember like going back. I remember once we got there, remember there was like a college girls volleyball tournament happening. Can you remember?
I do.
Yeah, okay. So this happens, Spice. So I sit down, and I remember the tables and everything. We're in a hotel kind of place, but there's a pool. Not that we're in there. We never went in there first and last, but the girls are going back and forth. And as they are, we're telling them who we are. We're from Orlando. There was a team there from Florida. There was really like a state kind of championship kind of thing. So anyway, fuck it, I'll go. We just won a championship. So we were like, we need everything. We there's no liquor store. We got loads of booze. We got loads of drugs. We're like, okay. So fair enough. We're not going anywhere. We're going to stay at the hotel. So we go up. We invite all of them. When I say all of them, I mean all of them. Like, and we just look, and there's where we were eating. It was a huge area. It was like a wide open area that would have been closed, but we were there, and then there was enough seats to accommodate all of them. So it was like all these girls came down, and we went up in the rooms, in our separate rooms, and opened them all up, and it was kind of an open area, kind of to look out into, like a piazza. Is that what you call those things? It's kind of within the hotel.
Courtyard?
Kind of like a courtyard. Yeah, exactly. That's what it was like. So anyway, we're in there, and Skinny and I are in the room, and I don't, to be honest, I think we took acid or E or something like that, because our radio guy's under the bed and we can't get him out. So, and we don't know. And I honestly don't know, because like all these people came and we didn't know. We were just like, bring booze, whatever you got. So they showed up with everything from like acid, I believe they had blow, fucking ecstasy, weed, hash, anything. Because it was this big,
everything. All of it.
While we're all fucked up upstairs, right?
Yeah.
While we're all fucked up. And I mean, half our team didn't do drugs or anything before. We just won a championship. So everybody's fucked, including our radio guy, who's still, about 2 hours after this now, he still won't come out from the bottom of the bed. I don't remember his name.
Well, I slipped, I put a tablet in the beer for him and gave it to him. Didn't have it, so he didn't even really realize. So that wasn't even, you know what I mean? He really didn't know what was going on.
Okay, because now I knew the stories would intersect, and I was wondering where, and I was wondering how that all went down. So you were involved in that. Now it becomes about 5 or 6 in the morning, and the bus driver's there, and like he's willing to go. So you and me and a few more are like, let's just leave, like, so we can sleep on the way back. And once we get to Orlando, let's just party there. Like, why are we chasing a party with a bunch of, and not only that, sorry, right, Skinny, remember about an hour before we left, the girls told us, they're like, well, we got to tell you guys something. We haven't been entirely honest. And we're like, what? And they said, we're in high school, not college. Can you remember? Can you fucking remember that shit? And if I said,
I do.
If I said that, like out loud anywhere, they go, oh, yeah, right, you're trying to make that up. No, not at all. They were trying to impress us, and they wanted to party with us. So, of course, they're going to tell us that. But that ended up being, and then this is when we told, whatever our radio guy was, when we told him that news, I almost had him out from under the bed. And he felt so bad. I said, whatever his name was, Hazy or something, get out here, get out here. And then he goes, what? And you told him, I think, the news. And he went right back in under the bed, and we couldn't get him out, boys. We had to leave him there, and we're all on the bus.
Didn't go.
I didn't make the bus trip.
He didn't make the bus trip
What was
back.
that? It was trying to get our broadcaster out, and then Darcy Johnson, like you said, God rest his soul, he was passed out, and he locked himself into and we couldn't get him out, so we had to take the door off the hinges of the bathroom, and there he was just passed out. He just passed out and on the floor, so we did get him up. But as for that, yeah, we left him. We left like 3 of the players. We won the championship. Our radio broadcasters, 3 of the guys, they weren't even on the bus when we left.
I remember that. Yeah,
They had to find their way back.
Okay,
Wow.
so you're piecing it better. All these years, and I didn't know where some of that started and some of it finished. I just knew we went back to the hotel thinking, you know what? Fuck it, there's nowhere to go. We'll have some beers here. And again, that N-word, whatever, I said it. It's a word, but that's why we didn't go there. So it's context. If I get anybody that's going to get in my face because I said that, then go fuck yourself. Because it's the context. I don't agree. That's why we didn't go to the bar that night. But anyway, when we did get back, Skinny, like I said, like we kind of expected, just because we had no options, to kind of just like shut it down and then go to Orlando. But it ended up being chaotic. So guys, this is fucking true. We get back to Orlando, and Skinny looks at me and said, "Well, obviously we got to party." And like, so the whole bus is there. Yeah, of course. And he says, we got to make this epic. So Skinny, I don't know if you remember how this went down, but we went over to my place, and I had a couple of pairs of cowboy boots. So I don't know where you came up with it.
Don't you always?
Guys, we went out for the next 3 days. Again, it was all his idea. I'm not taking credit for the humor that was involved here, but I jumped on board. Skinny, what did we wear to the bar for the next 3 days?
I think wasn't it just cowboy boots, shirt, and a tank top or something like that?
No,
it's kind of blurry to me.
I love
Or
that it's blurry.
Hawaiian shirt?
I love that it's blurry. We wore cowboy boots and Daisy Dukes.
Daisy Duke, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Short, yeah,
Well,
cut-off jeans, yeah.
The cut-off
Daisy Dukes,
jeans,
like
the
super
Daisy
short.
Dukes, and it was a duck hunting jackets with no shirt underneath, or like vest kind of looking things. And we went out, and I mean, like, downtown Orlando. What's the word?
Yeah,
You get you can get a transient kind of feel, or it's nice.
Are you talking like I Drive, or are you talking like downtown?
I don't know where. Like we would go down to an area that was not a whole lot unlike George Street. There was a lot of bars in an area, but I don't know that I would recommend to go into those places with cowboy boots and Daisy Dukes on.
Yeah.
no,
For
definitely
sure.
not that.
Yeah.
The Florida Man headline waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And we were both married to our first wives at the time. I don't know how this happened.
I love the qualifier of first wives at
They
the time.
were driving. We were like, me and Skinny were on some kind, and you give a guy a few days because you won a championship, and
They were partying.
we were partying. And anyway, they went in to just pick up the booze. When they came out, we were standing on the hood of a Jeep, your Jeep it must have been, seeing who could piss the longest. Remember that? That was like outside of Exxon or a gas station.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Molly,
Barely, but I do.
Molly, I think, was your girl's name then. Am I
Yeah.
wrong?
Yeah, that is correct.
And we will go back, but you're now. Tell me your situation now. You went back to Austin.
I went back. So since then,
Yeah, like Ashley Bridges, is it? I mean, I only know
Yeah,
Ashley from
yeah.
looking
So-
at your Instagram. We've
yeah.
never met. When I say Ashley, that's his wife now, I assume, or partner, or whatever. You just had kids. Congrats.
So went back. Oh yeah, I got 2. Nothing like having twins. 44 and a half years old with twins. Woo! There's a life changer again.
Better you than me, buddy.
But what happened? You had
Yeah,
twins.
yeah.
How long ago, Skinny, did you have twins?
2.5 months ago.
2.5 months ago. And
Jesus.
what were you at last weekend? It looked like some rave fest or something.
Oh,
Were you gonna-
Austin City Limits Music Festival.
oh,
Huge
you were at
festival,
Austin City
plays
Limits.
here.
Okay, I know
Yeah.
of that.
They have that every year. 80,000 people. There's 120 bands. It's awesome.
Who headlined this year?
This year who was it? Mumford and Son, Guns N' Roses, Childish Gambino, Cardi B.
wow.
Who else?
And you're the
Yeah,
type,
there's-
like, you take it all in. Now, the girl you're with, just from pictures, seems like you, try to put this, I guess, in my head, like, I know Skinny. Skinny might disappear one night, boys, and go to the rave and, come back at 5 a.m. with a glow stick in his mouth and lipstick on. Like, there was no holds barred with Skinny, and that's why we loved him. But that's what I'm saying, like, if you didn't just go for a couple hours in the afternoon and take in a nice song or act at the concert. You experienced it for the whole weekend, I'm guessing, right?
Oh yeah, from Friday, start early Friday and get back on whatever Monday morning. Sometimes got sitters for the kids. Everything's good. It's you have to immerse yourself in the music and the vibe and every beautiful thing that comes around with it.
So you must have fell in love. I mean, we were in Orlando. How long? You were in Orlando for 2 years. I think you played pro in Austin for 6 or 7, right? So you went back there. What brought you back? Was it Ashley, or did you meet her when you went back, or was it the local? I mean, the fans must have loved you there.
Yeah, I went back there because of the setup. Like I said, played there for 6 years. I always knew Austin's awesome. The vibe, like I said, man, live music capital of the world. I personally think it's the best city other than Nashville for music. It's incredible. The people down here, you got University of Texas, there's just so much to do. So many young people are here, and everyone down here, man, they're like dudes. All the girls, they want to fucking party. So it's awesome. I'm like, I'm in. Sold. I'm not going to live anywhere else. Hell no. So when I moved back here, my old man owned a roofing company, so I had started a construction company here, and through that, I ended up getting divorced. Real shocker. Great.
What year did you get divorced? What year?
I don't even know. 10 years ago? 11, maybe? 10 years ago?
And where'd she go?
I'm not even sure. So then I laid it down. I was like, listen, here's the deal. I'm never going to get married again. The give a shit filter just totally went away. I was like, this is what I do. So anyways, I met
much
Ashley.
of a give a shit filter. I mean,
no.
What was left was hanging on by a burning string. Anyway.
So I meet Ash, and I just kind of lay it on the line. I'm like, hey man, I need multiple people. I can't do a normal relationship. I can't do any of that stuff. I'm just wired different. I've learned I'm not going to do it. She's like, she goes, I like girls. I like party girls. So she's basically bisexual. I was like, let's see where this can go. So fast forward however many, anyway, so going out with her, she's like an absolute magnet. Like, she can dance like I've never seen anyone. Like, it doesn't matter where we go, whether we're downtown, whether we're in Vegas, whether in frickin' Punta Cana, whether we're in Mexico, wherever we go, she dances. It just attracts all these people. And she's a better wheel than I am a frog. So
I've never heard anybody describe a girl like that.
Yeah, it's like it is unbelievable. And she can party and throw it down. So
So you're thinking this is great. You didn't think you'd meet anybody like that.
And then it was like, okay, well, what are the parameters here? Do I get to be involved when everything comes back? Oh, yeah. So it ends up, it's a sweet deal. The original deal was no penetration was the deal. I can do everything else. I don't know how detailed you can get. Everything goes other than there was no penetration.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Oral on both ways. Oral on both ways, anything like that, everything goes except for then you know what I mean? Then you a couple of years of that, and then that fine line, that gray line gets a little finer, and then next thing you know,
so your give a shit meter, it just fell down, and it stayed down, Skinny. It stayed the fuck down, and you're still doing what you want to do. Yeah,
and like I said, I just need variety. I need all work no play makes Jack a dull boy. What can I say? You know what I mean?
I'm surprised on a 1 to 10 basis. I'm surprised 0, knowing you. So I still want to get to Junior, but like the next thing, as we're talking,
I was a plug-in Junior.
Yeah, I know, but I think people want to know, and I don't even know when we're going to get there. But since we talked about relationships already, tell me about missing your wedding. Like, for fuck's sakes, man. I only heard this story. Like, what happened?
All right. 26 years old. I was playing in Austin. It was like my 4th or 5th year. It was like a hometown girl from home. She'd go to college. I'd come down and play, do whatever the fuck I wanted the whole time, right? Yeah. And it was always like, I should maybe get married. Everybody at home is getting married. And I was thinking of possibly. So she asked me.
Home is Bozeman, Manitoba, right?
Yeah, population 300. Okay. God's country, 7 hours north of Winnipeg.
And you're in Austin, absolutely. So one mindset is completely different than the other.
Yeah.
But you're still having a little bit of a Bozeman mindset. Okay, keep going.
A little bit, for sure. Yeah, for sure, right? Because that's your roots. That's, maybe I should be doing that. So she asked me to get married. So I'm like, right there, I should have just manned up and said no. But I didn't. And then getting close to getting married, I told everyone, you know what, I don't want to get married. Everyone was like, "Oh no, you're having cold feet." My grandfather is a minister, so he had like an intervention to us to get together and saying, "Man, you should not." You know what I mean? This is a good thing. Another thing is, there's 500 people invited to this wedding. It's basically 2 little towns, and then all the players I was playing with. So I had people flying from the States. I had people flying from all over in Canada, flying to this wedding. So then I'm going to go for my bachelor party. Then I think, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to Vegas and I'm going to kill myself with drugs and alcohol, and then I don't have to deal with it. That was my mindset, right?
Wow. So okay.
So to start it, so we're flying out of Calgary. We're in Manitoba. We're in my truck. We're going to drive to Calgary. We start, my brother's with me and a couple buddies from home. We start drinking. Anyways, we're halfway through Saskatchewan. We're like hammered. We're like, "Hey, we're at some bar." And I'm like, "How far are we from Calgary?" They're like, "Calgary? You're closer to Edmonton than you are to Calgary." I was like, "Oh, let's go to Edmonton then." So we went to Edmonton, ended up hanging out there for a night with my buddies, then made it to Calgary the next night, and we're flying out the following day. My sister lives in Calgary. The girl that I was supposed to get married is my sister's best friend, who my sister told her best friend, "You should never get involved with a skinny." But she did. I convinced her otherwise because I'm such a good guy. So anyway, so we go out in Calgary that night. Well, so with my sister, we ended up with some blow and ecstasy, do that. I ended up making out with a bunch of broads on the dance floor. My sister's in tears. Like, "What are you doing? You're going to your bachelor party." Anyway, next day we fly to Vegas. So we get to Vegas, and when we're staying there, we are staying at started at the Hard Rock and Caesars. We're there for 4 days. We end up flying a bunch of girls. Why wouldn't you, right? Fly a bunch of buddies and girls in from Austin. So we rip it up hard for 4 days, and it's awesome. 4 days of not much sleep, partying properly. So
Oh my God.
time comes, it's like Monday, and it's time. I'm not dead. And the time.
You must have had anxiety up the fucking yin
terrible.
yang. Like,
It was terrible.
oh,
It was
wow.
terrible.
Monday, and
So-
I'm not dead.
We're at the airport. I have my bag over my fucking shoulder, and we're walking up to the gate, and I just stopped, and I'm with my buddies, and I was like, I looked at my brother, I was like, "Fuck it, I'm not going." My brother, I'm about to be married in 5 days. My brother turns around, and my brother don't say, he's 6'7", played pro. We
He's
played
not-
against each other three
remember.
times
Big
professionally.
tall guy. What's
Yeah.
his name again?
Dallas Anderson.
Dallas.
Fought him. Yeah, we played professional against each other 3 times. I've fought him 2 times.
Oh,
2 out of the
shut
3,
the
which is
fuck
kind of
up.
funny.
He fought him twice.
So he doesn't even say anything. And my brother doesn't really say anything. He's because he already knows I'm haywire, right? So there's really not, he just looks at me and he's
past the point of trying to convince you otherwise. And when
Yeah.
did that come about? Like when you were like 13, he just gave up.
Well, probably sooner than that. I don't even know. You'd have to ask him that. But he literally looked at me and he was like, "What am I supposed to tell mom and dad?" And I just looked at him. I go, "Don't fucking tell him anything." He was like, "Okay."
Wow.
So I left. So I literally walked out. I didn't have. Oh, another thing is, so we had a Buck and Doe, social before for the wedding and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They have that social thing. So we had before. This was 2 weeks before the Vegas trip. So we had $10,000 were raised for us to get married, and you know what I mean, to start your thing. I had all my credit cards. I maxed out all my credit cards. I spent all of that wedding money.
No way! Holy fuck!
Towards them. But no, so this is, but this was spanning over this 17 days. So I ended up there for 17 days. I went back. I didn't have anything. I rented a car. I stayed in Vegas. We were at a couple of the strippers' places. So I called the stripper. I was like,
Who'd
"Hey,
you
I
stay
didn't
in
know."
Vegas
I ended up on
with?
so I ended up on a houseboat with a bunch of strippers that we had met before. They stayed on Lake Mead. I was on a houseboat for 2 days there. So I stayed with these strippers. Then I ended up going back. And then I knew I was running out of money. And I had a buddy that was in LA. So I rented a car, drove to LA, and he was staying at Marina Del Rey. And he was like, "Oh, you're never going to fight." Anyways, rented a car, stayed and partied with him for 4 nights. And while we were there, the first night we went to like Whiskey A Go-Go. I wanted to go to a couple of those places. And we walk outside, and the streets are just, there's people everywhere. I'm like, wow, LA is awesome. It just so happened it was the night the Lakers won the championship.
Oh.
So it was a balls out party there. So anyways, then I partied in LA for 4 days. Then I ended up back in Vegas. and I was staying at Vacation Village because I didn't have much money, and it was their slogan was "Where the locals come to play." So I stayed there for like 5 days, and then I ran out of money, so I had to get home. Got on a flight, flew to Calgary, and I didn't have my truck, so I had to get back to Bozeman. Now I haven't talked to anyone at home in 17 days.
So you're MIA.
And
This
you're
was
just
before-
out there. I
this
love
was
that you
before
can
cell
do it, though.
phone.
It's like you're one step off a sociopath, but you got a good heart. But you can do all of it by, fuck it. You know what? I'm going to turn the page. My wedding's going on. I'm not there. So fuck it. I know everybody's upset, but I can just turn I can't do anything about it now anyway. I'm in LA. I'm in Vegas. Fuck it. Anyway, keep going. I love it. I love it. I love it.
So we get to Calgary. When I fly to Calgary, I got to take the bus home. I'm like, oh shit! And the bus was 100. I was saying I hadn't talked to anyone, hadn't made a phone call home. I didn't talk to my parents. That was before cell phones, right? There was nothing. I was dark. I went totally dark. I got to the bus station. It was $138 to take a bus from Calgary to Kamsack, Saskatchewan, which was kind of close to where I'm from. Gave my card. The lady looks at me and she goes, insufficient funds. So I had to call home. So that's the first time I had to call home in 17 days. The wedding had already passed, 11 days passed by this time.
Oh my God. I just can't imagine.
They made wine. There was homemade wine. They had all the food, like all that stuff for 500 people. Anyway, so I call home. My mother answers the phone. I was like, I'm in Calgary. I need to get home. I don't have any money. Can you get a bunch of money? She goes, I don't give a fuck how much it costs. You need to get home. So needless to say, fucking she paid. And even crazier. So I get on the bus. I am haggard. Tried 17 days, drugs and alcohol. Can't kill myself. On the bus, I see there's this blonde. She's kind of cute, sitting across. I was like, I'll sit right here. Sat across from her. When it's getting dark, next thing you know, I was trying to stretch my legs out because I was tired. Anyway, she's like, hey, why don't you put your feet on my seat if you want? I was like, all right. I put my feet on her seat, and then she kind of ooches over, and I can my feet are almost in between her legs. I was like, is she really doing this right now? Next thing you know, she's sitting with me. I finger this girl from the Alberta border to Saskatoon, basically. My finger was so wrinkled because literally in the middle of the night. So we're sitting there and and her legs shaking on the bus. People are wondering and that was just another sign. I was like, how many signs do you need that you have no business getting married? So anyway, got home.
Literally every sentence says so.
Well, that's what I mean. Like every sign, if you could read, if I was, you know what I mean? Every sign is telling me, hey man, you have no business. I probably had a nose business doing a lot of things, but it went from there. I went home. I faced an absolute shitstorm for 2 days. I packed everything I could in my fucking car and headed down to Texas, and I haven't been back. Well, I've been back since, but that's that. That's the wedding story.
Wow. How much, when you got back, how much, I think that's one of the most crazy stories I've ever heard in my life, like for real. I've heard of people have cold feet. But
I had to face everybody. Oh, it was terrible.
What did you say to her?
We had a house. So I get home. I get to our house. I got a house. It was like a $12,000 house. But anyway, I get to the house and I'm just like, take a breath. She's in the fucking house. I was like, oh my God. There she was. Yeah, it was terrible. It was horrible. And she's like super nice. Like friends. She's my sister's best friend. She's been a family friend forever. Oh, I fucked over everybody from her town. When I still go home in the summer, people from her, they still fucking mean mug me like, you are a fucking asshole.
They're kind of justified.
So,
100%.
So the girl, just so I'm clear here, because you were talking about how you guys were in Orlando going around with both of your first wives. That's not this girl. We're not.
No.
So there was another wedding after that one.
No, that was before it.
Yeah, that was
in Orlando. Would be after this was before he hadn't been to Orlando yet. And I'm
okay.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying.
I'm taking myself and my wife at the time out of the conversation.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to clear it up for me. So I'm just making sure that so this happens. That's not this girl, but a couple years later, you do get married and go to that wedding.
Yeah, you know what's funny is
I'm just making sure because I thought we were talking about the story of going into this. I thought it was you missed your wedding, not I fucked off for 17 days and didn't get married. I just trying to wrap my head around the context of it.
When you finally got married, was it a big wedding?
I'm caught up. All right.
And not only that, Molly, who Terry knows, TR knows, she was one of the girls that flew to Vegas. So she was actually at my bachelor party.
So your wife, your wife to be at
Yes.
the time, your future wife at the time, and now as we're talking, ex-wife, was
Correct.
there at your bachelor party for your supposed first wedding.
Correct.
So the wedding that actually happened, was there a lot of invites, big guests? Was it, you invite a lot of people, or?
Oh, I did to that one. Yeah, that was a decent one. It wasn't 500 people. It was in Austin. It was a lot, it is what it is. But yeah,
Wow.
good time.
Of
Either way,
course.
good time.
Jesus Christ. Nothing can match the first one, and for good reason. Now, going back, Skinny, then, how far, Nipawa? How did you start? Nipawa, 90s.
So we're going to talk about hockey after this?
Well, we're going to go back. We're going to talk about hockey at some point. Yeah, and I love it because, again, I met Skinny afterwards, and with no... that's just what we're going to do. It's just another topic. We're going to go back. Boys, every year, the thing is, that story's crazy, but I know that Ryan has at least as crazy or crazier stories. Like that night we won in Orlando. And I mean, it just, shit would follow us around. We weren't even looking for trouble that night. It was just all of a sudden. Do you remember, by the way, what happened to our radio guy going back? And then I'll go on from this. But what happened?
Well,
to
he
him?
did. He ended up going back with one of the fans the next day.
Oh.
He ended up going back there, and then he was the radio guy for however long. I think he is with the Solar Bears still.
Beautiful. Well, they were they come into town here. We got an East Coast League team. I can't remember his name. I'm sure it's not hard to find. Now, so going back, you're growing up, Skinny. Were you a forward or defenseman? Because I know he is as both. And were you must have been okay. Like you put yourself down a little bit. You'd always say, I cement hands. But you always, for a guy that fought a lot, and you did, and you weren't a goon either.
Yeah.
You were just answering the bell.
No.
You'd always have over 150, always over 200, sometimes over 300 minutes. This is just memory. I'm not even looking at your profile. And, you'd finish 5 or 6 goals. Like, you could go up front and not look silly. I think part of your job within the team, within that culture of the team, was to kind of be a little bit self-deprecating, but you're better than you give yourself credit for. But what was it? What was your story growing up? Did you know you were going to play pro? Did you have any aspirations? And you played 1 year junior, so tell us about it, junior A anyway.
No, I played actually 3 years. They just don't have the stats on there. I played out of but I was I wanted to be a hockey player from day one. My old man played for the Wheat Kings for 3 years. He was drafted WHA, I think it was San Diego Gulls. My old man was a good player, like real good. He happened to knock up my mother at 17 years old, and that's where I came into so that probably put a screw in the few plans. Needless to say. So, I always wanted to be. That's all. I lived and breathed hockey for sure. 100%. My old man always played senior back at home. I was always a stick boy. I lived and breathed it.
So
I loved it.
I loved it.
I went to Nipwa. Yep. That's all I wanted to do. That was it. And I knew younger, like I said, I was a forward, younger and stuff like that. I was decent. Wasn't really, really good. But like I said, I loved it. I played 3 years in Nipawin, actually, all 3.
3. I thought so. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And I looked at Hockey DB, but I know it's been a while, but we talked enough that it would have seemed odd. You spoke about it a lot. Yeah. So those 3 years, did you feel, as you're going through those years, you feel like you were going to be a pro player?
I didn't think I wasn't sure if I was going to make it.
So how did Austin happen? Because Austin, that was the Central League when you went there, right?
Yeah, well, it started out as the Whipple, WPHL, the Western Professional is what it started. And then it morphed into it.
So, like, when you were done, what happened? Did you have an offer when you were done to say, you know what, or did you look at every AA team and say, I'm going to try out down south? Why wouldn't I? It's sunny. It's nice.
Yeah, we ended up in the finals that year in Nipawin. My last year there. We were up 3-1 and ended up getting up 3-1 and thinking worried about who we were going to play in Saskatchewan. We ended up losing 3 straight. And then through that, I got a contract offer for El Paso, Texas and Austin, Texas. And you know what's funny? I recognized El Paso, Texas, and I didn't recognize Austin, Texas. I'd heard of it, right? But I was like, well, El Paso sounds better in Austin.
I mean,
anyway,
Marty Robbins didn't sing songs about Austin. All right.
That's right. 100%. So Blaine Stoughton owns the Austin Ice Bats. Blaine's brother, Gerald Stoughton, Dave Semenko, and my dad were all roommates and lived together for 3 years in Brandon with the Wheat Kings. So they were all best buddies. Well, one night, my old man and Gerald Stoughton are half in the bag, talking, drunk, dialing one another, shooting the shit. He's telling him that Ryan's going down to El Paso, and Gerald's like, well, Austin, my brother owns the Austin team. Why doesn't he come to Austin? So basically, I was like, all right, I'll go to Austin. Go to Austin, come to find out that they have the team set. They have everything. They had one spot basically left on the team. This is a camp. He's like, hey man, he goes, we have a team because it's Austin. It's a great city. I didn't know shit about it, right? They had a great team. They had everyone. They go, we basically have one spot. I was like, all right. So when we were at camp, there's a couple Slovakian kids. I just kicked it. I just started fighting everybody. That's all I did. In practice, I'd fight people. And then through the you know what I mean? Preseason, I fought everybody.
Yeah.
And they're like, good. And then they're like, well, I can't let this kid go. So I was kid, and I was the youngest guy by 5 years on that team the first year in Austin. So I was just a kid. So my nickname was Kid, and I did whatever it took to stay on that team.
Wow.
Yeah,
well, they clearly
time.
liked you. Did at that league at the time, because you played 6 years there. So did you just sign for? After that, did you sign for 5 years, or you just go 1 year at a time at that league?
I went 1 year, and then I did two years. 1, 2, 3, I think I signed, actually. 1 year, and then a 2 year, and then a 3 year.
I always found it funny, too, because if you took all those leagues and all those teams, like, a lot of guys want to go to Austin and Orlando, right? They're like, a lot of people would consider them the pinnacle of, the minors in the South for obvious reasons. Outside of the fact that both have had winners, it's been the weather, it's the people, the celebrities, whatever you're going to have, it has everything. So what made you decide Orlando and leave your comfort of Austin and the only pro team you'd ever played on, and, you're established, and why in your mid-20s or late 20s you just said, you know what, I'm going to move now and play on a completely different league, a different situation?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was not going to leave, and it was a big old contract dispute. Pissing and moaning over, what was it, $5 or $10,000 per year at the time. It's such a big deal. I went down to Pride because they knew, I was, like I said, it's fan favorite. I was there. I was into the city. They weren't going to give me a raise. I wanted a raise. And basically, when we were in negotiations, I remember Brent Hughes was in there. He goes, Skinny, he goes, we all know you're not going anywhere else. Just sign the fucking papers. That's what he told me.
It's a good way to
And
get
then I
back
left
somewhere else.
Yeah, that's, and then I heard that, and then I had a buddy that was trying to get me to go to Orlando, and then I was like, you know what? Orlando sounds, and literally, it was out of spite more than anything. And then I went, that was it. Went and signed in, and I signed in Orlando, and then they had the little press clipping that I signed in Orlando. Then the very next day, they called, and they're like, okay, we want to pay you, let's do it. I was like, you know that I already signed in Orlando. So I went, and it was awesome.
It was, guys. I mean, there's a lot we could talk here for hours about that, but the situation in Orlando, Skinny, I found there was a few refreshing things about it. Now, from my point of view, I was coming from, a lot of people probably would have thought, I don't want to say coming down, but I was downsizing my hockey levels, I guess, because I'd been to the NHL.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'd been to the A, but I'd been to the West Coast League. It didn't have anything to do. I just wanted to play hockey, and I knew I couldn't play in the A. I had a bad ankle. It was on cortisone as it was, so I'd kind of given it up. But when I went there, man, a couple things. A, it's Orlando, right? And we would come out of practice, guys, some palm trees, and honestly, most days we'd either go to Disney World or that Bamboozler, what he was talking about right off the bat, or like Daytona. I don't know how many days I went to Daytona Beach. Like, it's only about 45 minutes away. You start thinking like that, or you're how many friends visit and go to like St. Pete's Beach or Tampa Bay. I mean, they're only little drives, So there was that, and I found there was always people like visiting Florida from Canada, and which leads into the fan base. So at our games, we would get AHL level fans. I don't mean with their knowledge, but I remember I was only there for half a year, but with lots of games we had close to 10,000. Now it held 18 or 19. It's good for the basketball, but there would be a lot of fans, and a lot of them were Canadian. And you're not thinking, it's Florida, of course, and they're going to come.
Snowbirds.
Yeah. So I mean, earlier the psyche of the American fan was that, they're not really sure which level it is. They'll come to see it. It's Orlando. We had and Orlando weren't stupid. They had entertaining players. They had tough guys. They had guys like Ryan. They brought in guys like me. They would try to get the best at whatever roles they were going to do. Whatever they were looking for. And I mean that because Ryan more so than myself. I mean, he was the best glue for a team and the role player that there was. But there was that, and there was the particular team that we were on. We just had a laugh. You remember that bar we used to go to and play tunes on the jukebox, and the band O-Town would always be in there, and we wouldn't give them the time of day. Right? They would come over.
Orlando Ale House. That's where
that
Orlando
was it,
Ale
the fucking Orlando Ale House. Wow, Skinny, I should have talked to you before I wrote the book. I couldn't remember the name of that. I'm writing it down again. And by the way,
that's where you taught me. That's where you taught me the trick that I still do: drinking your own piss, man. I can just fill it right up and chug that stuff. Still, as long as I got ice in it, I'm good to go.
I'm sorry. Yeah. We're not glossing over this one.
What did I teach you there? Was it the pissing in the glass?
Yeah, and then drinking it.
I did. Did I do it on a bet or something? I
don't know if it was a bet, but you did it, and from that day on, I was like, "That's fucking awesome."
I used to in junior. I was in for shock value too. I'm a lot like you. I just don't go as far, but yeah, I used to do that. I guess you must have caught me on a good night. Yeah, I was disappointed, guys.
Good night for who?
Well, I guess I was having. If I was drinking my piss, I was having a good night. It meant like, I'm going to break this out. I'm going to fucking blow. Some of these people are going to go the other way and never want to talk to me again. And guys like Skinny and I are going to have a great night. Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
I just shock people out of the room.
This is Alice Cooper shit.
Yeah, just shock people out of the room. And then, of course.
The trick was the ice. You'd always put the ice in it, cools it down a little bit. As long as it's chilled, I'm good to go.
Yeah, and a little bit of beer. And then I would think, like, well, it just came out of me. It's going back into me. I know it's one of those things that sounds fucking insane. I know it sounds real bad, but when you think about it, when you really think about it, especially when you're drunk, and trust me, and there's people there and you want to laugh, I didn't care. I just wanted people to laugh, right? Get people laughing. And like I said, it just came out of one end, it went back in. What's the difference if it comes out once or twice?
I feel like
if a kidney specialist is listening here,
I feel like filtration is the difference between if it comes out once or twice.
I had a few things. Then I used to open the bottles of beer with my tooth, and a few party tricks, which aren't really tricks; they're just gross behavior.
The tooth one has impressed me. Actually, I've seen a few people do that.
I thought it was cool. I could open a bottle of beer with a bottle of beer. Like people seem to get impressed by that one, but like,
yeah, well,
I've never done. Well, I'm still just
never opened one and then pissed in it after. Well, and that used to come from when the bar would be packed. So I'd take a cup, whatever, and if I had a shirt, I'd just put the shirt down. I'd put the cup. I'd unzip my pants. I know this sounds really bad. None of those young listeners out there, but whatever. This happened, and there's no reason for me not to say it, I guess. Yeah, I used to put the cup, like, not everywhere I went. I wasn't, if I went into, like, Mort's fucking Steakhouse, I wasn't pissing under the table in a cup. If I went to a place that, served beer in a plastic cup.
The Bamboozler. Yeah, you can get away with pissing in a cup.
If there's a lineup,
if you try to pull that shit at the Rusty Whaler, you're getting banned, my friend.
I don't do it anymore just because I figure if I could get caught, it would have been real stupid for a guy like me, like, and in a lot of, with a regular job and all these things. But I used to do it all the time, and I did it at almost every bar on George Street. I just, over the years, but you put the cup down there. You got to go real bad. No one will ever see it. I'm talking about when it's fucking jammed and it's going to be like.
No, I've pissed in a cup before. I've done it. I did it at.
You just didn't drink the piss.
I just didn't drink the piss after.
Yeah.
I did it one time at the Salmon Festival for Kiss under a poncho, and then just capped the water bottle, dropped it, and kicked it into the crowd.
Another thing I used to do.
I capped it. I didn't want it at my feet all night.
Capped it.
When I went into a bar, if I were single, I used to take my shoe off, and I'd put it on my head, and I'd just walk around and I'd balance it on my head and just wait, because someone's going to ask why you got it there. Just wait for a girl to ask you, and pop it off your head, catch it on your foot, and say, "Well, I was just waiting for you to talk to me, hon." That's it.
Hey, you know what else?
Gets a better reaction than drinking the piss, I think.
Yeah, well, the piss drinking I was only due to get the boys going, and I had to be a certain level of drunk to not care. But I'm in my own mind, I was going, it's like being on a roller coaster. I'm really scared, but nothing's going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. The odds that anything's going to happen. So like I'm just putting back into my body what just came out of my body 5 seconds ago. So it's not really that bad. It just seems bad because of society. That's the way I would. That's the way I would. But anyway,
Because of
it ain't
society.
my interview. Yeah, because of society. Fuck society. No,
Hey,
it's true.
hey, TR.
Yeah.
Hey, TR. You always give me those hockey. You always had your hockey cards you used to hand out all the time.
Yes. Yeah, I love those. I used to do that too. I used to take them to the bar with me.
So you gave me. I don't know if you remember. You ended up giving me a stack of those things. And when we go up to either the Stars games or the Cowboys games, we'd be in the bar getting hammered and everything. I used to always give them the card and say it was me. And there'd be like a little bat thing. I'd hammer if we'd go out, hammer some broads and stuff like that. I'd always leave it was your hockey card. I always left on like the end table.
That's hilarious.
I was always hoping that someone would like try to get a hold. It's like a little bat calling or something like that. I used to leave your hockey card on the end, like on an end table.
That's great. Oh, that's unbelievable. I probably, hopefully, yeah, fuck. I probably have been called on it. I wouldn't know. Someone could have asked me. Someone could have called me thinking it was you. They probably think I'm a good
I did
bang.
that until I ran out of cards. You gave me
They
like
probably
20
think I got a huge hammer. I'm a good bang. if you at least showed them a good time. I know that.
Oh, I tried. You know what I mean? All you can do is try.
So listen, your time in Austin, now you're back. You just had kids. Is this going to slow down? And by the way, I guess I should, everything we're saying, we're only picking certain things. Skinny's a smart individual. When we party, especially when we won the championship, we partied hard, but of course you would. But I mean, we wouldn't, because Skinny, I get a lot of people, I say a lot of things on here and then I'll get like 8,000 emails tomorrow, and I'll be like, no, just don't get me wrong. We weren't fucking crazy the whole time. It was great to hang out with, though, or just hang out with Skinny and the team we had in Orlando, at least, because it wasn't, for me, I'd come from like a lot of pressure situations. There's fucking TV cameras and everything. We just wanted to have fun down there, but we were smart enough about it. We didn't get in our own way. We usually went out, like when we went out at like noon. So we'd be in fucking bed at 10 or 11 at night. And, we won a championship without losing a game along the way. But we weren't afraid to party, and party we did. Is there any chance, Skinny, you're going to get back out? I mean, I want you to visit here. I know you visited home. How often last Christmas, how often do you go back to Manitoba?
We usually go every summer. We usually go, and every other Christmas is what we do. But this year with the twins, we didn't get there. You were always on my to-do list to get up to Newfoundland. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go up there. And literally on this twin thing, I had it scheduled. I was 2 months away from getting snipped before this just happened. So that kind of puts a little
really
a little different life. Yeah, a little different life.
Twins too, but I would expect nothing less. When you come up, because it's going to happen. You know what I should do, Skinny? I should and I've said this to Asham, I should do a hockey school and have a few of you guys in so we can just pay for the trip. I wouldn't need to make any money. Just charge enough to get 2 or 3 of my buddies in. And, we'd do a hockey school 1 week and then, whatever you want the other week. I mean, I guess we could take you and your wife down to the Cotton Club and try to pick up strippers. I mean, whatever you...
Sounds great. Sounds fantastic.
You wouldn't even need, you just need to go to George Street, Skinny. You've never been there. And if you it's like a small... and a relatively small, but there's lots of similarities with Austin. Being that music rules here, in downtown St. John's, there's live music at most places most of the time, which differs from a lot of places. It's a party scene, which you like. There's a pro hockey team here. Maybe you get those 44-year-old legs back in action, and we can go back and try out for the Ice Bats. Come in.
Yeah, I'm banned. I'm banned from the rink here. So I got kicked out of the men's league about 8 years ago.
Okay, how'd this happen?
Oh, so they were trying to get me to play in the men's league. We got a AA men's league, and then they were like, "Come play." I was like, "All right." So 4th game in, everyone's talking about this guy. I don't even know what the heck the guy's name is. He's like, "Oh, he wants to implement that there should be fighting, that you should be able to get to." Anyway, Tommy, tough guy, played in Wichita apparently at some point. And so I'm out there. Our team's called the Goats, just a bunch of dudes just drinking and hanging out. Our goalie from Manitoba, he's like a computer kid. Austin's a big tech city, so he's a computer kid and super sweet kid. And anyways, this guy comes and basically runs over our goalie. And I'm like, so I went up, I was like, dude, like, come on. I go, if you touch your fucking goalie again, I'm going to kill you. So we go out there, and the next time he makes a save, and he chopped the guy chopped our goalie on the catcher's mitt. So I go out there. Terry knows me. I don't really hit anyone with my stick. Like I just don't really do that. Like I said, I do. He started skating up the ice. I golf club chopped him in the back as hard as I could. Like I lumberjacked him.
Yeah.
He fell down. I got on top of him. I punched him until the refs tried to break it up, and then I punched the ref. Then they took it to the penalty box, and then they kicked me out of they put me in the dressing room, kicked me out of the game. In the dressing room, I went after him in the dressing room, and then I tried to fight him in the parking lot, and then they called the cops, and then the cops showed up.
No.
So they separated. They said I couldn't. But then they banned me from the rink. But the funny thing is, I was coaching my son Cash. I was coaching I'm the head coach of the Adam team. I was like, so you're going to kick me out? You're going to ban me from here, but I can't coach the kid? Oh, no. You can still coach the kid. You just can't play in the men's league. So that was about 8 years ago.
Wow.
I like how everything we've heard, but we found the watermark. It's like, yeah, you know me. I would never hit someone with a stick. That was the watermark of everything we've heard today. It's like, in my 44 years, I have never swung a hockey stick.
And a little caveat. The caveat with that story: the guy that's in charge of the men's league, he's in charge of all the hockey. He was like a backup goalie. We were playing in Austin one year, and two of our goalies got hurt, and we were on a road trip. We had to go on the road. So, anyways, he was like a men's league guy, so we took him on the road. When he's getting on the bus, his parents were like filming him. He's an Austin kid, right? So they're filming him. He's on a bit of a square. We're in Little Rock, Arkansas, playing, and we go out all night. Bars close. I have the great idea that he's staying with the radio guy in the hotel. So I get the key. I sneak in there. I got in and I burnt all he had his two suits. We burnt all his dress clothes in the dumpster that night. So he didn't have any, because we were on like a 2.5 week road trip.
Yeah.
So I burnt all his raw, but then come to find out he's the guy in charge of it. And he wanted me to apologize. So I guess he got me in the end. He banned me. So I've been a lifetime ban from the men's league here in Austin, Texas.
Have you been suspended? Like in all that pro career, I don't know you as violent. I know you did fight a lot because it kept you on the team and you wanted to get the boys going. But the fights I saw you got in, you weren't even mad. And Skinny's not a goon for those that don't. You look at the penalty minutes, it looks like that. I'm coming at this is a different perspective than like Darren Kimball or Bird Dog or any of them guys. Like Skinny's much. We have a lot in common that way. You just Skinny. I'm not offending you when I say you were a middleweight. You fought heavyweights all the time. You're a middleweight that wasn't even mad half the time. So for you to tell me that story means you were really mad, really mad. You would almost you wouldn't even really cross check guys in the back much. Not saying you weren't tough.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway. No, I was like on that. I was just straight up. I was always straight as a player. I was always as straight up as I possibly could be. And when I fought, I did way better when I wasn't angry. When I get real angry, I get stupid when I fight, and I find that I'm not as good as a fighter. So I usually wasn't mad when I fought, oddly enough.
Yeah, that is odd. Were you suspended along the way? I mean, the era and B, the role, even though you're not violent, you had to be at some point. You must have done something outside of burning the backup goalie's suits.
Oh yeah, I've been like after in Austin underneath. So we play in a rodeo barn, and the dressing rooms are basically little cubicles outside on the visitors' cubicle. So it's kind of near. So you had to walk by. We had a brawl underneath the stands. We had a brawl. So I got underneath there. Of course, the cops pepper sprayed the 4 guys from Shreveport, but I'm the only guy that got. So I got pepper sprayed underneath there, and I got suspended a couple times there. The other time actually goes back to Ron Duguay. The second year in Orlando after you left.
Yeah.
The second year, remember Chris LaPuma, the defenseman, big guy?
I do. He was a tough guy, big guy. He always he seemed like a gangster to me. I didn't want to. He just came out like it'd be Orlando, and he'd have like a leather jacket on, like a biker leather jacket, and he just starts smoking the minute he left the rink. Like, again, I got nothing bad. It just, to me, seemed there's everybody on the team, and then we have this biker maniac who should be in Breaking Bad on our team. Right? Anyway.
100% Breaking Bad. And played with the Lightning.
And he played with the Lightning. Yeah, you're right.
Good stints there, too, from the looks of it. He did.
He was a good player and tough guy. Just found him, like, I was nervous being around him.
Lightning and the Sharks.
Yeah. And then, so with him, we were playing in Jacksonville, and this kid hammers him and hits him like they go knee to knee. And Pooms actually goes down and hobbles to the bench. So I get out there. I start following this kid. I didn't have the puck. I just start chasing him. Basically, he goes around the net. Of course, the kid, because I had trouble picking him up and crossing him over. So I'm trying to follow this
around.
kid.
You didn't beat him at the other side?
He goes around the net, so I go around the net. Anyway, I'm trucking after this kid. He's headed towards the bench. Ron Duguay's coaching this time. He's not playing. He's actually behind the bench. Chest hair, chains, everything. So I go around. Anyway, and I can see he's trying to get to the bench so that I can't get him. The door opens. He's at the bench stepping in. I was like, fuck it, I'm going in there. I'm still full as fast as I can, which isn't real fast, but I'm going as fast as I can. I hit that kid so hard. He falls. I fly all the way back. I hit my face on the dasher behind the bench. Hit my face on the dasher board, fall down. I look up, Ron Duguay's on top of me, just punching me.
Ron
Dude,
Duguay.
Just feeding you.
What? You're in their bench. Oh, God, what a bad place to be, face down in their bench.
I jumped. Yeah, and I went in there so hard that, like I said, my face hit the back where the coach stands. I hit there. Duguay's, anyways, they separate us. They kicked me off the ice, but then there's like a full-out brawl, and I jump back on the ice, and they gave me, like, I don't know, the longest suspension I had, 6 or 8 games.
Yeah, and you're
I always
having
tell
fun.
everyone I got suspended for Ron Duguay punching out.
I've got to find a YouTube video of Ron Duguay just with the shirt unbuttoned, chains, just feeding you. Just
on top of me, just hammering me. It was awesome.
Skinny, what's the worst rink that you played in? To play 9 years in Double-A, there had to be some shit rinks.
Alexandria, Louisiana, no question. The Alexandria Warthogs, they were called. They played like 1 year or 2 years. It was literally just a frickin', it was an old rodeo bar. There was a hole in the roof. Like, you could see the frickin' stars. It was ridiculous.
What? And they were trying to play ice hockey in Louisiana with an open air.
Oh, they had another one. They had a team in Monroe. That was another one. Monroe, Louisiana, like where the Duck Dynasty boys are. That's their hometown.
The Monroe.
Louisiana had a few. They had Shreveport. They've had Monroe. They had Alexandria. They had Lafayette. Yeah, Louisiana had quite a few teams.
Yeah,
actually.
but I just mean trying to play hockey in Louisiana, and Louisiana's climate with a hole in the roof doesn't seem like a conducive way to make ice.
You know what? It slowed everyone else down, so it made me look good. I loved it.
Any championships in Orlando?
Any what?
Oh, no, not Orlando, in Austin.
No, we lost. We made it to the finals. Dougie Shedden coached Memphis. They beat us twice in the finals.
I coached here in St. John's for a while right after that. In St. John's Maple Leafs.
Yeah, Dougie Shedden. Yeah.
And
he
toughest guy you ever played against?
Link Gates.
Where did you play against Link Gates? I guess it would have been in Austin then. What team was he on? Yeah.
He started with us. We were at a Hooters, and he punched out one of our players there, and then he went to...
what kind of a guy? For those who don't know, they call this guy the missing link, and he was a killer. He really, really was. Like, anybody my age that came across the minors, like, he was almost like at another level. And because of craziness, as well as toughness, I really want to know. Like, I've only seen him fight a few times, Skinny, but I know that, like, they were here at Cape Breton. When I was in junior, we're playing the St. John's Maple Leafs, and he was on Cape Breton, and I came to watch the game, and he wasn't in the lineup because the word was that he threw a TV out of a hotel room and snapped on the waiter at pregame meal, like shit that should never be brought up with ice hockey. Like, it wasn't anything on the ice. So, like, I was just thinking maybe this guy's just mad. Maybe he's just got a screw loose and, just likes to be violent. Or was it a job for him, Skinny? Or was he... I mean, he punched out a guy on your team. There must be some level of chaos to his...
That was at Hooters. He punched the guy out. He just got to the team. He literally we had 2 practices, and he punched the guy out, punched one of our guys out at Hooters.
Why?
Over nothing. It
Yeah.
was over nothing. Yeah, he got in that bad motorcycle accident. I think he bounced his head, and it just was never.
I think, and I think in this day and age of like of Bell Let's Talk and like mental health awareness, I think maybe if he's out there, I'm not trying to put you down, dude, when I say this, but everybody knows that he got in an accident. And maybe there was clearly frustration. I can't picture myself going to any team, even if I hate everybody, and on the second day having the balls to fight a guy, to punch a guy. Fight may be different, but just to punch a guy in a bar. So I think maybe there's a level of that, because I've also heard from a good buddy of mine, Mike Collins from Quesnell, who's also passed away, R.I.P. Mike, used to tell me that Link was a great guy.
Yeah, because that's where he played, was Quesnell. I'm also seeing what might be my favorite story from a hockey player anywhere is a Link Gates story that's on his Wikipedia page, just because you guys started talking and I started looking it up. There's a section on his Wikipedia page known as the Hamburger Incident, where he was playing a game against the Verdun Dragons. He was in Thetford Mines.
Oh, it's Quebec.
Yeah, in Quebec. And during the first or second period, he hadn't gotten a shift. So during the second intermission, he changed out of his jersey and skates and went to the concessions and bought a burger.
Oh, yeah.
And just like in the middle of the game, went to like in his like bottom gear, like home dresser, went and bought a burger from the concession stands and then got suspended for it.
Oh, yeah,
they suspended him the remainder of the year.
Well, the
Holy
thing is,
shit.
Skinny, the thing is, you know what I find? We got this in common. Or sorry, I cut you off there, Chuck.
I was just going to say, that's an odd way to suspend a guy for the balance of a season.
And apparently there was a big racket like not long after, and there was a brawl, and they say that it was because he wasn't in the lineup. It wouldn't have happened if he was there.
So, Skinny, I'll tell you something. Like, and you and I approach the game the same way that, you middleweight kind of thing. You'll fight anybody, and especially if there's a reason. Like, I can totally identify why you went after that guy after he hit La Puma, right? But I feel, now we've got our flaws and everything. I'm just saying, like, I feel like I don't go on the ice ever feeling violent, or I don't feel, but a lot of the guys that we were fighting do, right? So
Correct.
So we got to see that firsthand. Like when I try to tell people, like when I see a Link Gates, or like when I don't know, a Dave Morissette in the minors I played against. You probably did at some point down there. There were guys, Frank Bialoas. There were guys that were huge.
Full-fledged killers.
They were full-fledged killers, and they loved fighting. And then years later, a lot of people are going, well, they're that way. I'm going somewhere. I don't think you can judge everybody, but they'll say, well, they're that way because they got in so many fights and it happened to their head. But yes, in some cases, yes. But in a lot of cases, at the time, you could make it if you just fought. Hence your story about making Austin the first time. Now, if you weren't also a good player, you wouldn't have been able to handle just being the goon role. But I often say to people, I'm like, like a guy I played with, like Dave Morissette, who was a great guy. He had a lot of rage inside of him. He was really tough. He was a big guy. But he used to explain to me, he's like, when I learned how to channel the energy, and hockey, you could kind of dress, you could be an asset by being a maniac. So a lot of people with a mindset of, like, I need to let this anger out. That's who we're coming across. So guys like Skinny and I are coming across a Link Gates. We might have as many penalty minutes, but our mindset couldn't be any further from, Skinny, you were in that bar in Hooters to maybe pick up a waitress and get loaded with the boys, right? That's why you were there. He was there because he loves boozing, and maybe, I'm not saying because, but maybe some of them guys like that are in that situation. They love boozing, they need a beer, and they have one or two, and they get full of rage, right? And it's hard to draw that line. And a lot of the time, I'm finding people from our era, you would be rewarded. Link Gates would go to camp now and never make it, right? And no offense against Link Gates. Unless he was a good hockey player growing up, I don't really know. I shouldn't classify him. But most people that had that one shift to fucking murder a guy, right? Like, they probably came into it. They came into it from that angle because they could. It was a way to harness their energy. Whereas now it's a little bit different. But I think that's why so many guys like Link Gates existed. And down in those leagues, Skinny, I mean, where my first few years, the AHL or the NHL, you're really only seeing guys that legitimately can play that. There's exceptions, but when you get down to Austin, Orlando, guys,
it's nasty,
like
man.
anybody, and
nasty,
it's like day to day and week to week contracts. So some guy you can look at and see, oh, this guy's 6'7", 260. Let's sign him for a week. It's only a few $100. He wants to play pro. The minimum down there, not that anybody gets it anymore, but is like wasn't Darcy Johnson getting $250 a week right? So
I don't know
even
what
in
cheap
the,
would be.
yeah, that's what he was getting. And even now everything's paid for, but even in the coast, lots of guys get 400 and 500 a week. So you can just waste it. You can go, you know what? We're playing next week in Roanoke, and we have a depleted lineup. How about this total madman that used to be a wrestler? Let's just dress him and see if he can fight. And that happens all the time down there, right? At least in the AHL, they're killers, and But I knew what I'd expect out of Frank Bialowas. But I don't know. Some guy's coming around. Brady McFarland's in the lineup tonight. I'm like, who's Brady McFarland?
I want to find
I don't
a
know,
pro
but he plays
wrestler.
2 games and he has 89 penalty minutes. Oh, fuck. Where is he? He's from, bumfuck nowhere. All he wants to do is go out and kill you because he gets paid to do it. And those guys are all the time. I love that you brought up Link Gates. Was there anybody like that that you came across? Anybody else?
Yeah. Oh, there was a guy, Brandon Christian was another guy that played in Lubbock, and he was just massive. He was like
I remember
6'6", like almost 3, and he punched me so hard he cracked my. I fought him because he knocked out Jeff Greenlaw, who was our captain at the time, played at the Capitals for however long. He knocked out Greeny, and Greeny's a big man. So I fought him. He punched so hard he cracked the side of my. Thank God I have a helmet on. He cracked the side. I got pictures of that. I look like I'm fighting a giant. But we had that. We had like another guy was like in Central Texas. It was called Jacques Mayot. Played with the Nordiques for a bit. He was huge. He looked like the guy off Goonies, Sloth off of Goonies, and he could fight.
Or no, Sloth. Yeah, Sloth.
You know what else
Sloth,
is funny though, Skinny?
Sloth loves
Is that
chunk.
you love hockey, and we're all in the minors, and we often on the bus you complain about this or that, and you're like, they got us fucking Kentucky Fried again, right? Throw a fucking chicken leg up front, hit someone in the back of the head. You joke, but it's funny because people ask me, and I'm like, I guess at no point during any of that did I get on like the bus the next day and say, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Like you just explained having to fight a guy that would have broken your orbital bone if he hit you. You're probably getting 500 or 600 a week, and it didn't even dawn on you when you got on the bus to quit. Like most people, most people in those situations would go, well, that's why most people don't do it. But they'd go at this point. I mean, I can see if you're in the NHL, but okay, I'm in Austin. I'm on a bus with a bunch of guys that play Junior A. Wherever hockey, wherever they might have been.
Fell on the back of the bus used to be a pro wrestler. I think his name was Kane.
Yeah, shit like that,
Yeah.
right? Shit like
Literally.
that. Or someone might call and say, guys, the game's rescheduled in Macon. The Zamboni broke down, and we're going to play in Winston-Salem tomorrow instead. There's shit like that happening all the time that would never normally happen. There was
Our
one-
radio guy's been missing for 3 days. Here's what he looked like.
Yeah, in Orlando.
I heard that radio guy got drugged. I don't know what happened, but I heard that radio guy might have got drugged.
Jerry Daniels is the guy's name who's there now.
I found that online. I'm not sure if it's the guy that was there then or not.
It could be. And you know what, Skinny, before we shut this down, I don't remember, man. I really should. I remember every fucking radio guy but that guy. I remember the sight of him under the bed peeping out with his, it's one of the funniest sights. I just can't. Just come on, let's go. I just can't. And then we told him the girls were in high school. But anyway, where was I going? What was I? Oh, we should say our fucking stick boy. Do you know what I'm going to say?
Yeah.
Clint. So he got a job with the Chicago Blackhawks a few years later and passed away. He was there, guys.
Killed himself.
Did he? Is that what happened? And you never know, man, because Skinny, we're gonna have to insert
Clint
this at the
Rofer.
end. Clint what?
Clint Rofer.
Roford. I forgot that. And he was, people asked me after it happened, Skinny, I was shocked. Because first of all, he was always with the boys, always having fun, seemed happy. And in that industry, if you had told me, like I go to all those teams down south, wherever AA or junior teams I played on, the odds are for the equipment manager, he's not getting up any higher, let alone up from the Atlantic Coast League to the NHL. So he gets up
Yep.
and then takes his own life, right?
Yep. Married and a kid too. Married with a kid.
So,
He married his girl, the same girl that he was with when we were together in Orlando. He ended up marrying her, and they had like a little girl. Yeah.
and
Heartbreaking story.
we do a lot on our show. We had Head Check Health as a sponsor for a while, and we do a lot we work with mental health groups, and all that stuff, Skinny. So I want them to know, I guess, that this is just another example of a guy that, which is usually the case, we didn't see anything coming. It can be he might have had a bad night, and gotten too drunk. So I just want everybody to know how positive that guy was. I know it's a few years later now, but I've never had a really chance to talk about it. I've never had anybody on here that played in Orlando, Skinny, and it never really came up. But what a great guy. All the best to his wife and son now, who's probably 10 or 11 years old.
They had four children, 3 daughters and a son.
Wow. One of the nicest guys I've ever met. I mean that. And,
Yeah, and like I said, unfortunately, whatever league, whatever level it is, like I said, we've lost quite a few people along the way with stuff like that. And whether it be in suicide or, like I said, battling, like I said, something like that, where he's just, like I said, with Darcy, that was, like I said, he was like my little brother. I tried to look after him as best I could. Like I said, I was a bit of a haywire, probably not the best influence, but he was as crazy as we all were. And like I said, when he gets away and people aren't looking after and protecting him, bad things happen.
That was a sad one. Darcy was the year before. Darcy and I used to get in fights. We were almost like really similar when it came to fighting. And we were in the West Coast League. I was in Boise. He was in Colorado. And then we went to Orlando, ended up on the same team with you.
And then you
weren't a bad influence, though. Everybody knew. We talk about it. And over the course of this hour and 20 minutes, whatever it is, again, it's hard for me to explain you at all without making you seem totally fucking nuts. But what it is, Skinny, you just do what you want to do. I never saw you hurt anybody. I never saw you offend anybody. You joke about the booze and the drugs, but you always keep it kind of, and you don't go too far. I mean, when we win championships, it's different if you're missing your own wedding. But when we were around day to day, Chief, we called him Chief Darcy, we would sit and have beers. I mean, we did all kinds of things together. It's just that you're always having so much fun when you're doing it that I think, you might, like me, you might think, oh, man, hopefully I wasn't a bad example. Not at all, man. Chief was smiling when he was around you. He clearly had a problem, some demons that he didn't want to talk about. And the reason that I talk about it a lot on here is because I want people, and Skinny, like, I've talked about it a few times over the last few months, and, like, my inbox is just flooded with people. So lots of people think the same way. They just feel alone. And I wish he had spoken to us. But, the pictures I got after us winning and even before, whatever it is, oh, man, me and Darcy had a great time. For the most part,
it was the three of us.
Two of my best buddies on the team. I mean, I hung out with Darcy. Lived right next to me, first of all.
It was always the three of us. Yeah,
it really was. That I knew that. I know that if I ask the boys, they're going to come with me. And then after that, so we had three, no matter what we wanted to do, whether we wanted to go to Disneyland, Daytona, party, whatever, right?
Bamboozler, didn't matter.
The Bamboozler. And we've had you a long time. We'll let you go soon. Just a couple of last questions. Did I miss anything, Skinny? Did I miss anything that you might want to talk about? It doesn't have to be comedic either. Do you have any? Do you work with any foundations? Do you? Are you involved with the Ice Bats still? I know you can't get in the rink. Do you do any scouting? Are you involved in any hockey whatsoever?
They have the.
If you could scout for the team that you can't get in the rink, go ahead.
Yeah, no doubt. They allow me to go to the games. The Texas Stars are here now, so the Ice Bats aren't here anymore.
Oh, yeah, they don't have
the team. Yeah.
I didn't realize they bumped out the Ice Bats.
They did. And I just tell everyone that was our league. You know what I mean? Even though it was minor.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they just got a new rink. They just got a new rink and changed the name. I can't believe they did that.
And so, by the way, but you're down in Austin. You're living a great life. You got great kids, great wife. What do you do for a living now? I can't see it being anything normal. Tell me.
I've got a construction company, paving, roofing, concrete.
It is pretty normal.
Quite successful, actually, believe it or not.
No, I believe it. Yeah, you're dumb like a fox. I've always said it. You're dumb like a fox. You know exactly what's going on.
Great.
You just push it right to the end of both fucking spectrums. Right to the very end. But
we're only here once, right? You got to. You know what I mean? Like to be as genuine as you can, and that's kind of who I am. So,
I love it.
It is what it is again.
I love it, Skinny. It was great having you on here. And listen, I'd love to. We got to figure out a way. We can't die without seeing each other again. Okay. Now we're in our mid-40s. Well, you are. I'm not. I'm in my early 40s. But we got to do it. Let's just say, in the next couple of years, I'll text you after this, and we got to figure out a way that we're going to do it. Because I'd love to meet Ash and your kids, and whether we go there or you guys come up here, it'd be great.
Awesome. That would be awesome, TR. I appreciate the time today. And like I said, man, keep on. You guys are awesome. What you did. I was thinking that Third Man In, interesting name on a podcast. I think I got the Lifetime Achievement Award for Third Man In for like after hours, late night, going into the bedroom. Third Man In.
Yeah.
So
Man.
I personally love the name.
The thing is, yeah, and I could have made this a lot more spicy. I could have made this a lot more
I
spicy
know.
because you're wild.
I know.
But I'm leaving it where
I
it
know.
is.
I'm
I know.
I don't want to insult you or your
terrified.
wife or our exes or anything else. Sorry, Mike, but I didn't want to do that. But and if anybody,
I know.
maybe in a year from now we have you back and we just talk about your sex escapades for an hour because they're fucking mad too. They're mad. Go ahead.
I
Mike.
know, bud. I know.
Nothing. I was just gonna say, like, if this was like the cleaned up, like, safe version, I can't even fucking imagine.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is.
This is the safe version. It really is.
100% no bullshit. This is clean. This is a clean version, my friends.
Exactly. Okay.
All right then.
Well, hopefully the next time I chat with you, it's in person. But if not, we'll have you back on for Volume 2, Ryan Anderson's Sexcapades After Christmas.
5 whole stories.
All right.
Good times, fellas.
All right. Thanks so much, Ryan.
Thanks again. Have fun in Austin.
Cheers.
I will. See you guys. Be
Bye-bye.
safe.
Penny Posh, maternity wear reimagined, breaking the barriers of style, fit, and comfort that often leave mothers-to-be uninspired in their new wardrobe. Penny Posh's designs have reinvented a clothing category often seen as disposable, temporary, and unattractive. Well, not with Penny Posh. Check it out, a continuous fit maternity collection from bump to bundle and beyond. You can check them out on Twitter at Penny_Posh, on Instagram at PennyPosh_maternity, and of course on their website, www.pennyposhdesigns.com. Penny Posh Designs, maternity wear reimagined.
Okay, so as we told you guys, that was a bit of that interview kind of went all over the place a little bit. There was some stuff in there to unpack, but
There's lots to unpack.
a huge thank you to Skinny Anderson for joining us here. One thing I did want to bring back now that you guys have heard it, because Terry kind of alluded to it during Skinny's interview, because it was something that came up today on Twitter. A friend of the show, Ryan Fancy, tweeted it out. Said, "Give me your worst hockey barns in Newfoundland. Think Buckins is a well-known one with chain link fence instead of glass, but I'm interested to hear of others." And then he said after, to be clear, by worst I mean best, toughest to play in as a visitor. Because I kind of went back at him like, I play in Buckins all the time, man.
I
Like,
gotta
it's a great
think-
barn, and they've actually got glass now. But they did have
okay.
chicken wire back in the day.
And the millennium came and they put the glass in, is it?
It was after that was when I no, it would have been 97, 98.
Oh,
But
okay.
now when I play, like I said, I play there whenever my wife's from Buckins, so we go back for Christmas. And when we're in Buckins at Christmas, and you play in the T-Bone Cup, it's 9.5 beer, fill the T-Bone Cup. And it's, I don't know if there's a better place to be December 27th, 28th. It's just fantastic. So, you're just like in the room, up in the room, eating moose burgers with everybody, drinking all the beer you can. You go out, you play some hockey. Everybody from town comes in to check it out. It's great. It's a great
One
time.
thing I always think about when I think about like Newfoundland senior hockey and stuff like that, how fucking nerve-wracking must it have been to play on Bell Island against that Bell Island crew in their heyday, because you got to get on the ferry. You've got to get on that
you gotta
ferry
get
to go
out of
over
town
there.
after
I've
that.
always thought of it like it was the Bell Island Miners, and they were pretty,
I've been at junior games packed over there. They were in our senior league for a while, but like no fans.
No,
Yeah, no.
like to
They had
me,
to fold. Yeah.
Bell Island in the 70s, or like,
Yeah.
that era is what I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about right now. I'm thinking about like take it back 40, 50 years. And that's got to be an intimidating feeling. It's like, okay, we're playing Bell Island. We got to get on the boat. And it's just like,
Yeah.
boy. Yeah.
Or Fogo. The Bell Island thing, though, you're right, but you only have to go back 10 or 15 years. Like, I got buddies now. I went over to games over there when they won the league. I'm 42, so Chad Graham and Steve Kelly, Spock Kelly. I know some of the boys are going to laugh when just that I'm bringing up this song or this story. But they won it. Dave Brazel, who's now a political figure. Dave coached the team. Anyway, it would be jammed, and I'd go over to watch the boys whenever I was back in town for whatever reason, and it was an atmosphere. And I guess just that the population, the interest for hockey went down a bit. The interest for hockey, guys, everywhere. We often like to look at the senior league or the junior league and go, how do we get these fans back and everything? A lot of the fans are gone because of the internet and because of video games and because of cell phones. I hate to say it, but I think it's all the way across. Smaller towns still, like, and to elaborate on your fact about the arenas and how packed they get, there is a tournament. You just said December 27th and 28th. Yeah. Every once in a while, I've played about 4 the last 10 years on Bell Island. There's one of those.
Yeah.
And now that actually gets more fans than the senior. The senior played over there, dude. One night we counted 13 fans. Nobody.
Cracked,
they didn't want anything to do with coming to the rink. But at the Christmas time, everybody comes home and they, me and Todd Gillingham, oh God, and a few more, Jason Hedges, Francis Mooney, a bunch of us a few years ago, all played senior hockey too, right?
Yeah.
But the boys all come back most of them from Cambridge or forever, and they wear the Bell Island bell on there, whatever they were. The Miners were Miners, I guess, but then it's got a bell on.
It was the Islanders, wasn't it?
Because it was the Miners.
It was Buchan's Miners. I thought it was the Bell Island Islanders.
I just assumed it was the Bell Island. Yeah, someone said Miners, maybe not. Right? Bell Island Blues.
Bell Island Blues was a thing for a bit.
Yeah. So I don't remember, but the rec team comes home at Christmas, and it's just one of those things where a couple of times, the most recent probably 5 years ago though, where they get all the boys to come back and they play the game. Now, there's no slap shots, and we're out there wheeling, but and they can all skate. I mean, a couple of them. Oh, God, I forget his name now because I'm on the spot. Jonathan Boone. He played in 2 Memorial Cup finals with 2 different teams in 2 different leagues, OHL and the Q. Sure. Like, him and his brother, God, I forget his name. Anyway, there's a few decent players there. But, if they back into the net, so they'll all come, and they beat us one year. I mean, myself, Todd Gilling, we had like 3 or 4 pros. We had a bunch of senior guys. But, again, if they can skate well, and it's a small rink, and they just back into the goalie, if you can't take a slap shot and you can't get a breakaway because they'll just stay back, right, then anything can happen. And sure enough, and to be honest with you, I smirk and wink, and almost it's a good thing that they win once in a while because the fans love it. It's only a rec tournament at fucking Christmas, but we drink with them all. I had a youth development program over there years ago, so I'm buddies with them. But there's one up in Whitburn. I would throw that in it. Whitburn junior games, even recently, but a few years ago I went. The last time I've been in Whitburn to watch a junior game was probably 4 years ago. But that gets rocking. Oh boy, and it's. When you say burn, I often say burn. We played in that shithole. Shithole is a tough word to be endearing, but the worse the rink is, the better I like it.
I was saying this to you earlier.
I think Memorial Stadium more than Mile 1. I love that Mile 1's there, and we need it for tourism. But I love the fact that I played in what people called, quote unquote,
the
a shithole. Yeah. Whatever, because it brought character.
I think I said this to you earlier because we were just kind of talking about this before we started rolling, and I said I think the more uncomfortable the fans are, the more they want to be there. So the shittier the rink is,
that's a good point.
The colder it is, the more uncomfortable the seats are.
Minor ammonia leak.
It means that they really give a shit, and they're there, and they're more likely to stand up and cheer and move around to try to warm up and get out of the. But if you're comfortable, you're complacent, right?
I really like that theory, and honestly, Mike, I have never ever thought of that being the case, but if I just think my own self,
it's the most Howard Ballard shit I've ever heard.
Yeah,
all right,
it is.
It's
very Howard
Ballard shit.
All right, let's get out there. Come on, guys.
They're colder. We can get away with charging $2 and a nickel for this coffee in the gardens. Hal.
Imagine,
I just think that might be a thing for me. I think the toughest. I didn't play a lot of minor hockey. I played 2 years, and I remember
you're in Central.
I'm in
There's
Central,
a lot of them
so we went out. I remember playing. Obviously, I played in Buckins, played in Bishops and Lewisport and Gander and Clarenville. But I think for me, when I was growing up, the one I remember the most was Botwood. So the first ice hockey I ever played was at Bruce Gill's hockey camp in Botwood.
Is that still there?
Yeah, it's still there.
I remember being at there. It would be 15 years ago.
And I always forget the name of it because I can't remember the name of the one in Botwood and the one in Bishops. I always used to confuse them. But I distinctly remember there was a invitational tournament they had one time that because it was Botwood, a smaller population, it was probably a D or an E level tournament. And they invited Grand Falls to get just to kind of as a filler. But because we were A division, I guess, we sent out what was our last place house league team, which was my house league team. And so we played in a tournament against them. And I remember we were playing against Botwood, and one of our guys got into a fight along the boards, and the kid's dad was up in the stands right next to where the fight was happening. And I remember the dude's dad coming down and like leaning over the glass and trying to pull the two guys apart, and like throws a couple punches in at the 12-year-old fight, or 12 or 13-year-old fighting his kid.
That qualifies.
And I just, and like, I mean, I know there's some people who probably have the same memories of going and playing in Windsor, but particularly with the Rice family. Yeah. But I just distinctly remember this one time where it's like, and I remember Todd Horwood, who's now a ref, and you probably know Todd from Ref and Senior and stuff. I remember Todd conveniently was waiting. He was just watching it, but he was a ref, and he even then in Pee Wee, he was like first or second year, and he was watching, he was waiting for it to go. He could see the dad coming in, everything, and he just waited and was just waiting to pounce. And as soon as the third man went in, Todd
was the dad.
No, not the dad. Didn't
Okay.
count. As soon as one of the guys from Botwood jumped into the fight as the third man in, Todd went in and just tore everybody apart like a linesman. He just like started hauling people apart, and he was like, again, like 12 or 13 at the time. And I remember this now. It was Pete Watkins, I think, was the guy in the fight. And oh man, what a mess it was. But a dad throwing some punches at a 13-year-old kid.
You never think it'll happen, but yet it always seems to happen.
Yeah.
Every year I'm like, is this going to end? These videos of parents going onto the ice. But now that being said, and getting back to your burn comment.
Yeah. But that was the question. He amended it to say by worst, I mean like best, but best, hardest to play in as a visitor.
I tell you the one I've been at in Labrador.
Oh yeah, because we only had two. We've got Wabush and Lab City in my part of Labrador, but there's got to be some spread around out there.
More than that.
Yeah, no, where I grew up. Yeah, there's got to be some spread out that I'm not aware of.
Spread out.
Obviously, I only grew up in the.
I
Quebec,
tell you,
really.
a kid. So the reason we brought up Bell Island, the reason I was on Bell Island 0304, because I started a youth development program for Innu kids from Northern Labrador, and a lot of them, their parents more than them had problems. There's gas sniffing going on, substance abuse. We just said, how do we get away from this negativity? Like, just get some of the kids down here that want to be involved in a program. So we called it education through motivation. So if they got to, we had it on Bell Island. Bell Island wanted a midget hockey team, but they didn't have enough players, or at least not enough to even survive in the midget league.
Yeah.
There was people wanted to start in midget. You're not going to enter them into a AA league.
Yeah.
So these kids could play, though. They were just mad. Like, the boys had they were playing with no helmets, like fighting each other. Like, that's the way they grew up playing. So we had to go, okay, but they were really great kids for the most part. It was very serious, though. Like, one of the kids hung himself there when they're 3 or 4 weeks in. Like, it was a lot of adjustment factor. But once that had happened, all good. I become friends with a lot of people from the community because we're trying to help them out. Remember, they had a program here close to downtown at the St. Clair's or the Grace Hospital or something. And but they would have like 50 and 60-year-olds that have been abusing substance their whole life, and try to bring them down and change them. It'd be hard. Our idea was, let's bring the 14, 15-year-old, 16-year-old kids down here.
Yeah.
So we did, and it was great. Like, a few of them ended up, no one had graduated high school there in 10 years. A few of them graduated. One guy went on, Tommy Poker, to get his university degree. Ken Rich drives a Zamboni now up there. They all ended up with goals, and they went back and I went back last year with Ally Afraidy and the boys playing alumni, and really the community's cleaned up well. It's got a ways to go, but man, the people up there are working great with them. And the guy I worked with was Simeon Jacobish, and I got to know his son Vincent and the Riches and everybody else. But anyway, so I've got like an in. Like, a lot of them have their backs up against I don't want to say white, but anybody from St. John's or town that tries to tell them how to live. And I got that too, because some of them live they live different like anybody would. If you live, they like their skidoos, they like hunting, they get their own rules, and they got their own culture. And actually, when I got up there and integrated myself into the system, so it's just like anything else. They were like pretty good and everything. So I get almost like a free pass. Like, they don't give me a hard time whatsoever. We go in there. So I don't always go up with the alumni team. If there's $1 in it, I don't mind saying it. So one guy called me, and he goes, because there's these traveling native tournaments. And they go on all over Canada. I talked with Sheldon Surrey about one. Well, over here we have, so like, if you win the tournament, you get 15, 20 grand, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You get 10 guys on your team, and you win the tournament's Saturday, Sunday. You get paid a couple of grand each. That's like a joke. That's easy money. So a couple times, the boys will phone me from Goose Bay. Andrew War, He used to play in Halifax. He's the one guy, I guess, maybe used to play that. But anyway, they'll get me to go up, ask me, and I'll say, sure, they'll fly me in for the weekend, and if we win, we get the money. So, and if you get the final, you get like $500. So anyway, there's an atmosphere. Go in to Sheshashi, with a team from town or from town and Goose Bay, and try to play them. And it's a native tournament, so anybody can enter, but like there's teams from, all kinds from Quebec, a couple from Northern Labrador, and then you got Sheshashi and then us. So we're hated because they're like, oh, yeah. Again, not a race thing. A thing like, well, I played in Montreal. Andrew played in Halifax.
Yeah.
Some of us are down here, like coming into town from town.
Yeah.
Right, with our big towny ways and our culture. You're not going to come in here and beat us. So, like, I've seen some crazy things in senior. Oh man! But going in to play those guys, now it's all tongue in cheek. I can't imagine if I didn't know them, but they get right into it, and the building almost shakes. I've often said it because there's been times I was in Lab City one time and I went to Shefferville and watched a senior game. There is they play up there and they play pretty hard.
Shefferville.
I watched it. No, not Shefferville. The town with the under one roof.
Church of Falls.
Yes. No. Fairmont.
Oh, Fairmont's fucked, dude.
It was crazy.
Fairmont gets into it.
So
man.
Fairmont is a town in Labrador.
Yeah.
That is
No,
all
in
under
Quebec,
one
actually.
roof.
That's
Quebec.
Quebec,
Okay,
yeah.
it's just over the border.
Yeah. Where I'm from is really fucking close to Quebec.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I just, like I said, I go up once in a while to do hockey school stuff, whatever. So, and I got good friends up there. So once in a while, usually 2 or 3 years don't go by that I'm not in Labrador at some point.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that the Sheshashi thing is one thing, but then they got this other side note because Goose Bay is way far away from Labrador City. A lot of people don't realize that, man. And for a large
I
600 kilometers,
600K, and isn't it mostly a dirt road, or it was then?
It's now paved. My
It's now
folks
paved.
drove it today, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that must have been fairly recently because I remember as little as like 8 years ago being on the dirt road.
3 years. I think it's paved.
So. But they got these games too. Like I figure, I'm like, I guess there's senior hockey everywhere. It doesn't matter as long as the people want to play.
Yeah.
But I mean, like mostly, like if I go to, I don't know, Twillingate or something, they might say we're in our senior hockey league, but you can't hit.
Yeah.
So it's really a beer league. It's a rec league.
There's that
is it
intermediate
senior
league.
Yeah. So there's intermediate. So often I hear someone go, I first of all, I think senior's a bad name to put on it. Even when I say it, it sounds like you're over 65. But senior hockey to me means, okay, that's the step between rec. After rec, it's step between rec and pro. There's hitting in senior, there's fighting. That's all I know. So usually I'll go to these small towns and they'll go, come watch a senior game, and it's really only a beer league game.
Yeah.
But I watched a game up here in Vermont, and
they go nuts.
6 fights in the first 10 minutes.
Oh man,
and they it was fucking
it's
bonkers.
It's blocked too. It is absolutely blocked. They have player shirts. Like when I moved out of there in 2011, 2010. But like when I was in high school, they would have the shirts with the same thing you'd get as like Sidney Crosby with 87 on the back. You'd have the team logo,
like jerseys.
Jerseys. That's the word. They've got all that. It was insane.
Yeah.
And everything's in the
for
same
a
roof.
beer league in a town with one roof.
Man.
We went into, there's a bar in this big building. Again, the whole place is under one roof.
Because it's so goddamn cold, right? Like that's why they do it.
Yeah. I mean, even like walking through, not like a mall.
No, the whole thing.
You walk through and like there's trees, there's people, there's patios. It's just under a bubble.
Yep.
Right, it's almost
in fact,
like
you could smoke in that building. That's one of the last buildings in just because of a bylaw and how it was zoned. It's the only one in Canada. You could smoke not inside the bars, but well into my high school. You could step outside the bar into this big wide open building and light up a cigarette.
Yeah.
So if you went to any of the bars, like there's a restaurant bar, best pizza I've ever had in my life downstairs called Barzonics. When we were in high school, if we went up there, and like I graduated in 2007, so I mean, we were in high school. You'd go up, and then every now and then, like you'd go in, but you'd have to clear by 3 or 4 people having a dart just out in the hall.
Amazing.
Vermont.
We don't have. Honestly, I could talk about this building for probably better on 3 hours.
I don't even know, but is it the only place in the world? I couldn't believe
there's
where I was.
One
the whole place now is under one building.
It's designed after one, which is in northern. I don't know if it's Norway or Switzerland, but it's way over in the north, and it's something.
Like Mike, a lot of it, just like looking at any building, it looks like a building, but there's parts. Like I said, you're walking down the fucking gut of this thing. and there's like buildings, like you'd live in an apartment building with a deck, right? You can see the
Yeah.
sun, but there's a dome. So it's like The Simpsons when they live under a dome kind of thing.
It's
very much
Stephen King book, Under
There's-
the Dome.
You walk down to
here's
the,
the pool,
store.
TR.
Oh, look at that.
I was there last week.
That's wild. It's wild. It freaked me out, the whole place. Yeah, you just
Stick it
walk
down
around
to the grocery store.
Yeah,
I'm
you
showing
go to the
Terry
grocery
pictures of
store,
my,
head up to Tim Hortons, go to the grocery store, go to a movie, whatever you want to do. It's all under a roof.
and there's a painting of the building. I was my folks sold their house, so I figured out
It's
I was
Sweden, by the way. Yep.
Sweden. Okay, I thought so. I knew it was one of the Scandinavian countries.
It is 1.3 meters long and 50 meters high.
That
is
would be miles, Michael.
Yeah.
No, it says kilometers.
Yeah.
Sorry, kilometers.
It
1.3 kilometers long.
anyway. I a friend of mine years ago was in one of the real smart schools that I'm not allowed at in Montreal, and they were they were talking about this. They were doing a research paper about this building, this town that's only a building in a remote
It's
location in northern Quebec.
phenomenal.
And I literally was just out with them for a beer, and I was like, "Oh shit, you're talking about Fairmont? What do you need to know? I grew up there." Oh man, like I grew up right next to it.
Yeah.
The guy almost hit the floor.
It's the
That
first
is
thing.
correct.
It's the most
If
I ever
I'm
felt like
ever-
Han Solo in that like Star Wars movie. It's like, yeah, what do you need to know? It's all real. It's all true.
No, that is, and those are burns. Every burn in Labrador, actually. Again,
Yeah.
of course, they're not shitholes; they're burns.
Yeah.
But I love it. Like, and Nain, by the way, I got to throw out Nain. Nain, there's probably only, I don't know how many people, less than a couple thousand that have ever been in that rink. But it's small. The ice surface is like almost like St. Bon's.
Okay.
But again, we go up there with these NHL alumni teams. It's great. Just I
Oh,
wish
that's-
the next time I do this, I'm gonna really document all of the trip and
Yeah.
try to, because I try to explain, like, we land and we drive like on screws for 5 or 6 kilometers. We go to the rink, but it's always such a great time.
That's wicked.
You talk about Newfoundland burns, Mike. I would go with those ones in Labrador. I haven't been to every one. I've been to a lot, and I find once you go outside of St. John's,
Yeah.
like, I know we got Twin Rinks, we got St. Bon. If you really think about St. Bon's Forum, that would have to be up there.
Yeah.
But most of them, the further the ones in St. John's keep getting updated, and minor hockey, and it might the colors might change because they go with different jerseys, or they
Yeah.
might get different sponsor for whatever reason, like the Fogo rink we went
Yeah.
to last year. Like, I find that's got the same flavor as it did 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. The Joe Byrne has changed in Grand Falls.
Joe Byrne changed
right?
probably 20.
But the one in
Joe-
Bishops didn't.
No.
Right? But just 20 minutes down the road. So some
and
of them
the one in Windsor, the one in Windsor got redone
It
a
did,
couple
yeah.
years ago, but not to the extent that
Not
the
to the
Joe
extent.
did. But I remember the year I started playing hockey again, so it would have been like 2003. Winter 2002, 2003 was the year that the Joe Byrne got renoed, because that whole winter when I started playing, I was playing out in Windsor the whole winter.
yeah.
That's like because we went down to a one rink town for a year or two while the Joe was getting overhauled. And I mean, the ice is the same. The clock is
Oh,
new,
yeah.
but it's in the same spot. I mean, a lot of the Joe is the same, except now the seats are a little bit different.
You know what
but it's not.
it is. It is.
But the thing is it's still where I saw the Jones Shield, and oh, buddy. And
Yeah.
I'm saying Jagmeet Singh grew up a little bit in Grand Falls. Still trying to find out what team he rooted for in the Jones Shield. I'm told it was likely GFA, but I still want to hear it from the man himself.
St. Mike all the way.
Exactly.
And thing is, old Joe Byrne was my favorite old Byrne, and old Clarenville was one of my favorite old Burns.
Oh,
and
man.
I think the two nicest rinks, Corner Brook, there's something to be said for that, but yeah, three. Outside of here, like Corner Brook, and then you got the Pepsi Center out there, and then you got the Joe Byrne, and you got Clarenville.
Yeah.
What the fuck is the name of that? I forget the name of the one, or the Clarenville Events Center,
Yeah.
CEC. They're just beautiful,
Yeah.
and just it's one thing to play senior hockey there, but the fact that even kids growing up, like getting to play in the Joe Byrne now with those
Yeah.
seats. I mean,
I have a buddy who's
the history.
he's going to be 50 in a couple years, and he keeps saying like his one of his biggest things is that he's never played hockey in the Joe Byrne, and wants me to find like some rec tournament and just go back and play in the Joe Byrne with him. And the thing that's weird about the Joe Byrne is the Joe Byrne possibly might be one of the only instances of a rink that got renoed and the locker room got worse. Because the old St. Mike's locker room at the Joe with the individual lockers used to be the Cataracts room. It was the St. Mike's side for the Joan Shield. It was the best, and it was great. And then when they renovated it, they just made it the same as all the other rooms, and it's just not as good.
No, yeah, I know. For those who don't know, so we had my dad on. I'm sure a lot of listeners listen to that. And the 5 guys off his bantam team that went. Joe Byrne. That's why the rink is named Joe Byrne.
Yeah, it was their coach.
He was their coach. He got them away. It gave him a chance to play pro in the first place. It's hard for me to pick one rink though, Mike. When it comes to Burns, there's so many. I love the feeling of a small town Canada burn, and a lot of them are pretty similar.
Yeah, I know what you mean there.
I think it'd be one of those shows, if you had to pick one because it's so subjective, I think maybe just have fans, maybe one of these days we'll have a call-in show and we'll have fans call in and maybe tell us their stories about their favorite. Everybody's hometown is going to be their favorite barn, right?
100%. And speaking of which, I think this is the pit. Yeah, this is the one. I just got this over the weekend. I was home for Thanksgiving. It's the Joan Shield book, and this is a photo of the St. Mike's team from 1968. And up here in the back row, I think this is like all those guys. I'll take a picture of it and post it on our Instagram
right away.
But I think it's all those guys. Joe Burns in that photo. And it's all the guys from that team. I think Terry French and all. I can't even remember all the names, but yeah. And just insane. So it's a cool book. A guy named Roy Olford from home.
It is. Ross
wrote
Flood
it,
too. I know. Ross,
put it all together. So
it was Jim Munch, Terry French, Dad, Tony White, and Donnie House that all went pro.
Yeah.
Terry, what you just said, but my favorite rink is not my hometown rink. It's definitely Fairmont.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I'm giving it to Fairmont.
I love that. I brought it up because I would honestly if I don't want to outright pick one. But if I had to, that would be in the running for all the reasons that we said.
All right. Well, there we go. On that, I will remind Terry in case anybody, because we always do that. Anything we got to add? I'm not sure if Terry realizes that yesterday was the new season of Letterkenny dropped.
No way.
Oh.
Did it really? Did you
dropped,
see episode 7 yet, or the last one of the first season?
Of the season? I have not watched it at all yet. I thought it was today that it was coming out. I was also on the road driving back, but a new season of Letterkenny is available right now on Crave or Hulu.
I can't wait.
But it's up there for you to check out, and I know Tiara's in it. So if there's anything else, I think we'll probably call it on this one.
Yeah.
Signing off. Third man in.
So you can find us everywhere at 3MI Podcast. 3MIPodcast.com is where you can find episodes and shop and do all kinds of other stuff. I'm at Hickey Comma Mike on things.
I'm at Smokes Indoors.
Oh my God. I am apparently going to have a heart attack. I am Terry Ryan 2020 on Instagram and Terry Ryan 20 on Twitter.
And we'll be back next week to shout out you a little bit more about hockey. But until then, have a great one. And we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Skinny.
See you later.
Was crowd.